Hello everyone, welcome to Brighton's Amex Stadium for live Premier League coverage here on 5 Live Sports Extra. Brighton and Hove Albion against Nottingham Forest on this packed Sunday afternoon of Premier League football. We are already underway over on 5 Live with that live commentary at Villa Park between Aston Villa and Tottenham. No goals there at half-time. West Ham Burnley's about to begin online via the BBC Sport website, and then of course from 3:45 on 5 Live, Liverpool and Manchester City meeting. But here this afternoon, myself, Chris Wise, and the former Southampton defender Franny Benali alongside me. We're waiting for the two teams to emerge from the tunnel. On a grey day, there's a bit of drizzle in the air as well, but a highly anticipated Premier League fixture between one team who are coming off the back of a really disappointing destruction at Roma in the form of Brighton and that Europa League game on Thursday night, and Nottingham Forest, Franny, who are just above that relegation zone and badly in need of some points. Good afternoon to you.
Hi Chris, great to join you today, and really looking forward to this one. I think we're going to be in for a good match, and as you say, sort of both teams looking to really bounce back for different reasons really. Clearly Forest need the points to pull away from the bottom three, and you know, after that heavy defeat against Roma in midweek, as you say, in the Europa League for Brighton, they want to get back to winning ways as soon as possible. And they've been a tough nut to crack here at the Amex, haven't they? So, you know, I'm sure they're going to be looking to bounce back in front of their home fans in a positive way. But both sides, both Brighton and Forest, have lost their last 3 games, each side in all competitions. So it's a big game for both teams.
Yeah, that form that you talk about for Brighton, it is 11 matches unbeaten at home in the Premier League. West Ham, the last and only team this season in the top flight to win in these surroundings, and we are just hearing the music lifting up in the background, being ploughed out over the PA system as we wait for the two teams to come out from the tunnel, which is just down to our right hand side. I can see the white ball positioned on the plinth, which is about 50 metres or so in front of us. We've got the big Premier League flag, white, and the green colours with the blue line on it, which I'm sure will be very familiar to you. And here come the two teams from the tunnel then, the two captains, Lewis Dunk of Brighton and Ryan Yates of Nottingham Forest. And Brighton in that familiar blue and white stripped shirt with the blue shorts and the blue socks, and Nottingham Forest, who are wearing their home kit today even though they're on the travels, so the red shirts, the white shorts and the red socks. And they will know as well, Nottingham Forest, that after Luton's very late point at Crystal Palace yesterday, there is now only 3 points between them and the bottom 3. And even take aside that lingering worry about what the financial fair play potential points deduction that might come their way, take that out of it, they're in danger anyway, Nottingham Forest, so they really do need something. Yeah,
they do, Chris. Like you say, they've just been 3 points away from Luton Town, as you say, in the bottom 3 places. There's still work to be done, but they've got, I think it's in their own hands, Nottingham Forest. You look at the games that they've got to play, they've still got to play so many of the teams in and around them. They're all big games now between now and the end of the season, and they'll want to get back on track as soon as possible. You can see clearly the disappointment and frustration, the way that the officials sort of like the decisions went against them in the game against Liverpool, and how that cost them at least a point last weekend. So, you know, they'll be taking this as a breath of fresh air, putting that behind them and looking forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Paul Tierney's name has not been flavour of the month in Nottinghamshire this week, but they're at the Amex Stadium today wanting to draw a line under what happens. And just looking around me, it was only 5 minutes ago that I could see so many blue seats. Well, they've all disappeared now. This stadium has very quickly filled up. And over to our right-hand side, a big splash of red with those Nottingham Forest away fans behind the goal, where Nottingham Forest players are breaking towards off the back of the handshakes that have just taken place on the halfway line. So let me give you the team news then from both of these two. For Brighton, 7 changes from the team that lined up in the Stadio Olimpico on Thursday night. The only players that remain from that game are Van Hecke, Dunk, Gross and Adingra. So Brighton in full, Verbruggen in goal, Veltman, Van Hecke, Dunk the captain and Estupinian, Belieber and Gross as the 2 holding midfielders, Modder, Fati and Adingra in front of those, and Ferguson leading the line for the Seagulls. And for Nottingham Forest, 2 changes from that very late defeat and controversial defeat against Liverpool. Out go Hudson-Odoi and Elanga, in come Danilo Murillo and Chris Wood, who's making his first appearance since January because of injury. So they've got Seltz in goal, Williams, Omobamidele, Murillo and Toffolo, and then Dominguez, Danilo and Yates, Origi and Gibbs-White flanking either side of Chris Wood, as the two captains stand in the middle at the moment with the officials and some of the mascots for that obligatory pre-match photo. And we are all set to go with Brighton, who dropped down to 10th in the Premier League table yesterday. The win for Wolverhampton Wanderers over Fulham means that they have moved above the Seagulls, and actually Brighton now in the lowest position they found themselves all season in the Premier League table, but they will still have those eyes on getting a European space and returning to European football next season again.
Most definitely, that will be the goal, Chris, for sure. And like I say, two teams wanting points for different reasons today. But regarding Forest, you mentioned there Chris Wood in the lineup, striking for the away side. Massive bonus for them to have him back there. Top goal scorer, 8 Premier League goals, 9 in total this season. He's going to be a big plus to come back, and they'll be looking for goals from him for sure.
I'm just having a look at Roberto De Zerbi. He's tucked up at the moment in the dugout. He's got his black hooded zip jacket, which is zipped all the way up and over the mouth. He's got a black baseball cap on, and he's trying to keep himself warm on this slightly chilly March afternoon. We're off and underway, and Brighton going from left to right in this first half in the blue and the white, and Forest in the red, and they're on the front foot already, but that ball down the right hand side is too heavy for Gibbs-White, and it's gone out to play for a Brighton goal kick. So Brighton against Nottingham Forest in the Premier League here on 5 Live Sports Extra. Aston Villa against Spurs over on 5 Live right now. West Ham Burnley available via the BBC Sport website and BBC Sounds. And from 3:45, that game between Pep and Klopp for the very last time in the Premier League from 3:45 at Anfield. What a big day it is. But here at the Amex Stadium with the floodlights needed on this grey afternoon, and Brighton very patiently just moving the ball between their two centre-halves and their goalkeeper at the moment. And it is with Van Hecker with that number 29 on the back of his shirt, the Dutchman, and he gives it to the left-back, which is Estupinian. Gross has just dropped into that hole as well, and we see this a lot from Brighton, don't we, Franny? This very precise, patient play from the back.
Yeah, it's that very sort of slow build-up, and looking to play from their keeper out through their defenders. And from what we've seen in these very early stages, Forest aren't looking to engage them too high up the pitch too soon, so they're just looking to set a trap or two, I would say. Like, the ball's just gone back to Verbruggen now, and again, Forest are just keeping their shape, looking to wait till they get roughly round the sort of middle third of the pitch before they start pressing.
First sight of Nuno down on the touchline. He's got his arms folded at the moment. The Nottingham Forest manager, as Modder tries to hold it up, he's dispossessed by Toffolo, kept in play on this near right hand side by Veltman, halfway inside Nottingham Forest half, and Dingra goes chasing down that right hand side. Toffolo is sorting things out with Murillo, little neat 1-2 between those. Dominguez is giving it back to him, and eventually it is swept up and away by Murillo towards the halfway line, where Gibbs-White collects it for Nottingham Forest, but Brighton retrieve it again, and they've had a positive first 2 minutes. Yeah,
most definitely, and Forest just not able to get out of their own half once they won possession. But I think, again, certainly as we've seen in games before, as you touched on, Chris, this could be something of a format that we might see Brighton in a lot of possession. Here's Origi for Nottingham Forest, coming up to the edge of Brighton's penalty area. Still going Origi. He got a bump in the back as well, and it is a Nottingham Forest free kick. Estupinian lent into Divock Origi, who just put the afterburners on, got away from the Brighton defender, and it is a free kick, a yard, perhaps 2, outside Brighton's penalty area. Well, it's certainly fine lines, isn't it? It's just so close. I mean, he is outside, just catching a quick glimpse at a replay, but again, he's arguing that he won the ball. He's pointing at the ball, but referee had no hesitation. Michael Salisbury today, whistle blew, pointed outside the box for the free kick. Home supporters were a little bit hopeful, I think, that it was going to be inside, but there was no danger of that. That was a really encouraging run, though, wasn't it, from Divock Origi? Picked up the ball, went with positivity at the Brighton back line, might have a reward from it. Yeah, and that's what Nuno Espirito Santo will want from his players today, especially those attacking players, the wide players in those positions. And it'll be down to players like Origi to drive at the Brighton defence, unsettle the defenders, make them commit, make a decision, try and unsettle them, and then look to maybe release a little pass or get in on a goal himself. There are 5 Nottingham Forest players around this free kick. They can't all take it. I just wonder who it is going to be. And 1 or 2 are moving away from the situation now. I can see Nico Williams is over there. Who else is looking as a
possible potential. Danilo maybe as an option right on the edge of the box. It's teed off, it is Nico Williams, and he went low, and actually the player who was lying down behind the wall, Ansu Fati, does his job because it's hit him on the back.
Yeah, Danilo going over the ball as a deco. Nico Williams just playing a short ball. Ball got stopped and wasn't particularly the best of efforts on target. Like I say, Wall doing its job though for Brighton.
He's got the ball in his hand for this Forest throw on the right hand side, deep inside Brighton's half. Nico Williams making his 50th Premier League appearance for Nottingham Forest today. And as the ball is eventually worked back out to Williams, it was out of his reach, and it's now going to be a Brighton throw as the rain returns with a little bit of venom in these darkening skies above us here in East Sussex. As Believer comes short for the throw, it's back with Dunk, and he's gone back to his goalkeeper Verbruggen. And I imagine, Franny, there will be a few Brighton players that will be licking their wounds after what happened on Thursday night, because even though they came up against a very good Roma side who have returned to great form under Daniele De Rossi in the past couple of months, that is a bruising defeat, and one that has left them with a lot of work to do in the second leg here on Thursday.
Yeah, you'd probably say that's the tie over, but you just never know, do you? You just never know. But you know, they really needs to shut up things a little bit tighter and try not to concede as many as what they did in midweek for their upcoming tie next week. But their focus will be very much on today, and you know, they'll just be looking to try and bounce back. It's a great opportunity for the players to put that performance and result out of their mind for a short period of time and get back to some positive winning ways.
Toffolo lifting it down the left for Nottingham Forest, sent back the other way by Van Hecke. 5.5 minutes played, no goals so far. Brighton against Nottingham Forest here on 5 Live Sports Extra, as Nico Williams collected on the right hand side on the halfway line, tries to push it down the line for Origi, didn't get the pass quite right, and out for a Brighton throw.
Yeah, it looks like so far that Brighton are the ones that looking to pass the ball in a bit more of a patient, slower build-up. Forest the ones looking to release their forwards a little bit quicker. Divock Origi, Morgan Gibbs-White, Chris Wood getting the ball up to him. He's that central striker for them that they'll be looking to play off.
Mentioned that Aston Villa against Tottenham is over on 5 Live. First goal of the afternoon there, it's gone to Spurs. Villa 0, Tottenham Hotspur 1 at Villa Park. Here is Adingra for Brighton, into the feet of Veltman, back for Simon. Adingra has been put under a little bit of pressure, and Forrester got it back off him, and now Danilo, who breezes away from Adingra's challenge, and then a deft touch from Wood on the halfway line, gives it to Gibbs-White. This is good from Forest. They've been excellent in the first 6.5 minutes. Out with Origi on the right hand side, edge of Brighton's penalty area, his ball in off the chest of Dunk, very composed to send that back to goalkeeper Verbruggen in that sort of position. Excellent defending from Lewis Dunk. Yeah, the captain for Brighton. The ball came in from Origi. He knew where the Forest strikers were, making runs into the box. He knew he was under no pressure. Came in chest tight and he just popped it up back to his goalkeeper. Excellent defending, but a promising, encouraging attack from Forest's point of view. Sharp, bright, moving the ball well, and Origi looks like he's had a real bright start so far. They win today, Nottingham Forest. They'll be 6 points clear of the Premier League relegation zone. Would take them up to 15th in the Premier League table. They don't tend to have a brilliant record against Brighton. They certainly haven't scored in any of their last 3 trips to the Amex Stadium. But arguably they've looked the more likely in the 7.5 minutes we've had so far, with Brighton in possession of the ball just inside their own half, with Pascal Gross, who's had a fabulous season for Brighton once again, and a landmark day for him too as well, because it's his 250th Brighton appearance this afternoon. It's a real milestone, big number of games. There's Believer, who's towards the very beginning of his Brighton career in comparison, is pushed over just inside Nottingham Forest half by Chris Wood, who tried to use his body but was overzealous in doing so. And Brighton have a free kick here, and for the first time they might be able to penetrate that Forest box. That's great when you've got players like Chris Wood doing that though for your team. You don't often get every single striker or forward that wants to do that defensive side of the game for the team. So Pascal Gross over the free kick, raises his right arm into the air, swings it in right-footed, headed away on the edge of the penalty area by Forest, picked up again by Estupinian, who wants to go forward but is being forced to go the other way by Gibbs-White, and eventually sent it out to this right-hand side for Gross, and he doesn't have an option forward, so he has gone all the way back to Bart Verbruggen, the Brighton Hove Albion goalkeeper. Yeah, no option other than what he did for Gross, but he's on the ball again now, and they're in the Forest half with a great ball through. And Modder's taking it in his stride as well down that right-hand side for the Seagulls. Now with Adingra with the white wristband on his left wrist, and Gross again, who always assessing what's around him. Adingra, lovely touch, good effort, and straightforward save for Celts in the end. Didn't have to shuffle too much to his right-hand side, the Belgium international, but the first sight of goal for Brighton.
Yeah, I'm still trying to work out how he got past Danilo, because Simon Adingra almost didn't really do much of a trick or a drop of the shoulder, yet he still got past the defender somehow, and it was a wonderful piece of skill to get by him, but the shot lacked the quality of his turn.
Tottenham have scored a couple of quick goals at Villa Park. They're now 2-0 up against Aston Villa. James Maddison got the first, and the former Nottingham Forest player's just got the second. Brennan Johnson has scored for Spurs. So Aston Villa 0, Tottenham 2. That's over on 5 Live right now. We're on 5 Live Sports Extra with Brighton against Nottingham Forest, 10th against 17th in the Premier League. And Brighton with Lewis Dunk, their captain, gives it to Van Hecke with the white boots on and his blonde hair towards Veltman on this right-hand side, to Adingra, return to Veltman again, and back with Van Hecke on the halfway line again. It's been a difficult week for Brighton, not just that defeat to Roma, but the one to Fulham last week too. Belieber, positive run, shooting left-footed, Celts on the stretch to his right-hand side, goes past his right-hand post, behind for a goal kick, but suddenly Brighton finding some rhythm.
Yeah, he didn't have a huge amount on, I don't think, so he was quite pleased to just manoeuvre the ball, shift it onto his left foot. Certainly had the Cells scrambling, well, pretty composed, quite easy in the end, but it's a shot on target for Brighton.
Had our first goal at London Stadium as well. It's not perhaps gone the way you'd expect it to go, because it's West Ham 0, Burnley 1. Fofana's got the goal for Burnley, so having been put at the bottom of the table by Sheffield United's point yesterday at Bournemouth, as it stands they are back off the bottom with that lead that they have in East London this afternoon. Veltman for Brighton, right hand side, halfway inside Forest half, forward towards Modder, being pressured by Danilo, but uses his physical strength well to keep the Brazilian away from the ball and to keep Brighton in possession. And they've gone from right to the left for Gross and on towards Stupinian, who didn't have the pass to play, so has to come back in field, and it is now with Lewis Dunk, a side-footed pass towards Van Hecke, out to the right-hand side for Adingra to Veltman, back with Adingra again. 11.5 minutes played. Brighton 0, Nottingham Forest 0. Brighton going from left to right in this first half as Van Hecke opens things up to get it out to Estupinian on the left-hand side. Nico Williams standing him up. Now with Gross onto his right foot, lifted up to the far post. Toffolo with a free header away. Adingra is going to keep it in play on the right and looks and then fizzes one in with a bit more pace. Danilo arches his back slightly to head it away. Wood collects it. Dunk fouls him. And Nottingham Forest have a free kick.
Yeah, no dispute that it was a foul. I think Lewis Dunk is complaining that Chris Wood ran into him a little bit more, which you could say is fair, but it's clever play from Chris Wood just to win his team a free kick midway through their own half. But from Brighton's point of view, good possession, zipping the ball around well. That greasy surface with the drizzle that we've got here is zipping that ball around, keeping possession as they do so well, but switching it, just waiting for that little opportunity to break forward.
Only 2 wins in the last 8, Brighton, in the Premier League. They were against Crystal Palace here, which of course is a significant one for Brighton supporters, and the big victory at Sheffield United a couple of weeks ago when they won 5-0 at Bramall Lane. But in those 8 games they've lost to Luton, they've lost to Spurs, they've lost to Fulham as well, as we mentioned last week. It's been a sticky patch for Roberto De Zerbi's team.
Yeah, it has. You know, they want to get back to, like say, pushing into those European spaces, but again they've done well at times. It's 11 unbeaten now at home, aren't they? So it's a tough place to come, the Amex Stadium, for any visiting team.
Everton were here recently. It needed actually a Lewis Dunk goal in stoppage time to preserve that unbeaten run that Franny Benali talks about, as Veltman collects the ball, is tugged by Dominguez, and referee Michael Salisbury gives Brighton a free kick. So they take that quickly with Van Hecke, and he gives it to Lewis Dunk, and there's not too much pressure on those 2 Brighton centre-halves at the moment. Gibbs White is now going over to apply a bit of momentum perhaps to try and dispossess Brighton. It's not an easy thing to do. It's with Adingra on the right hand side. Tried a trick. Oh, he's gone away from Dominguez. How's he got past him? Adingra into the box, pulls it across. Belieber arriving, his efforts blocked. Back with Adingra, still inside the penalty area. Veltman then on the stretch. Dominguez has caught him with an untidy challenge, and it's one that is going to elicit a yellow card as well for the Nottingham Forest Argentinian midfielder who dived in. He's saying it's my first one, but it is a yellow card.
Yep, first yellow card of the afternoon. It's a little bit late. There's no intent in the challenge, I don't think, whatsoever, but it is a foul in the football now. But Simon Adingra doing so well to jink his way past. I think it was more through a little bit luck than skill. And then I thought he was going to maybe take the shot on, but he tried finding the little sideways pass, and then shortly after his pass into his teammate won his side the free kick. So some defending for Forest to do here.
Nicolas Dominguez, the Argentinian who has started the last 9 Premier League games now. He did come off injured actually against Liverpool last week. There were some doubts about his availability today, but clearly he is fit enough to play as we move up towards the 15-minute mark, and Brighton with a Pascal Gross free kick 2 yards outside of Nottingham Forest penalty area on this right hand side, with the score at 0-0. Gross towards the near post, flicked on by Dunk, saved by Seltz, who sprung to his right hand side to push it away. In fact, it was Modder's touch. I thought it was Dunk who got his head on it. It wasn't. It was the Polish international Jakub Modder, and he's unlucky that Seltz has denied him.
Yeah, it was a great ball in. Ball's a little bit flat actually, but those are often the hard ones to defend, and it was Modder that got his near post header flicked across, and a wonderful save from Sells.
So here comes the Brighton corner then, with quarter of an hour play. Gross right footed to the edge of that 6-yard box, headed away well by Omar Bamadeli for Nottingham Forest. Estupinian on the left hand side. Fati collects it off him. Fati with a problem in Danilo to try and navigate his way past. Back with Estupinian on the left, and it comes off Nico Williams' right boot and deflects behind for a Brighton corner over on that left hand side. Franny Benali.
Yeah, Brighton just starting to up the pressure now, aren't they? Winning back-to-back corners. Just asking a few more questions of this Forest defence this afternoon, and what Forest fans won't want to hear is the stat that they've only kept 1 clean sheet in their last 16 Premier League games, which is something that they've got to turn around to give themselves a chance of surviving in the Premier League.
They'll be cursing at the radio right now, Franny, that you've mentioned that. Here comes the Brighton corner. Eventually Seltz comes out, but he is not going to get there because 2 Forest centre-halves, Murillo and Omar Bamadeli, both jump for the ball. One of them gets the head on it, Murillo. Dominguez at the moment is being pinned in though in front of his own corner flag over on that far left-hand side, and Forest eventually managed to hack it away up to the halfway line, where Veltman retrieves it for Brighton.
Yeah, we mentioned sort of Morgan Gibbs White when he was looking to try and put the Brighton defenders under a little bit of pressure, Chris, and he's trying to cut off one side of the pitch to force them down almost like one half of their own, forcing them into a little trap, but he's just struggling to do it a little bit between him and Chris Wood at the moment. Brighton are doing the ball, manoeuvring the ball so well between them. The movement's good, the passing's good. They're good at doing this kind of thing, but Forest is struggling to contain it at the moment.
Now Fati's been caught really late there by Omar Bamadeli. Brighton are allowed to continue because they've got possession, but I wonder if Omar Bamadeli might get booked for that challenge, because he came right through the back of Ansu Fati, completely cleaned him out. Brighton have now lost the ball, but it's stopped by Adingra, who went backtracking with Toffolo, prevents that through ball to Nottingham Forest left back, and it feels now, Franny, with 17.5 minutes in, that Brighton do have a grip on this game.
Yeah, they most definitely do, and that last run sort of typified that. I think we've seen Divock Origi pick up the ball in Brighton's half and drive at the defenders, but on that occasion, picking it up in his own half, he ran almost like sideways across the pitch, had very little options to play to. So Brighton are definitely just sort of starting to force Forest back in this 17th minute we're into now.
Nuno Espirito Santo hasn't left the edge of his technical area. The Nottingham Forest coach with that long blue jacket on and his tight tracksuit bottoms and his trainers. And at the moment he's giving instructions to his team just down in front of us, because Brighton has seen more and more of the ball, and they're coming forward again down this right hand side with Adingra, who has played it short into the feet of Veltman, who's right over by the touchline on this right hand side. Adingra's got it again. He has seen plenty of the ball so far. And has Modder been pulled over? No, he hasn't, by Yates. Is that a foul on Veltman? That has been given. Toffolo the offender. Brighton free kick halfway inside Forest half, and now that yellow card that we mentioned might be coming on the Bamadeli's way is given by Michael Salisbury for the late challenge on Ansu Fati a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, well spotted, Chris. Like you say, at the time of the foul, he allowed it to go on, and Brighton had that possession, but looking at it back, he's late, he's nowhere near the ball, and it's a definite foul. He catches him on his leg, but he might even have caught him with his forearm or his elbow on the side of his head as well. So yet again an opportunity for Brighton to look dangerous from a set piece, which is almost a copycat position from when Modder had that chance that made Sells pull out that wonderful save.
And good refereeing that from Michael Salisbury. Let the game flow, but didn't lose sight of the fact that Andrew Omobamidele was going to pick up that yellow card for the foul on Fati. So a couple of early yellow cards here for Dominguez and Omobamidele, and a Brighton free kick as we move towards the 20-minute mark. Score is 0-0. Gross with it again towards that near post. Toffolo got a touch on it. He sent it back towards his own goal, and then Fati was coming in at the far post, and his header is blocked and turned over the bar by a Forest defender. It's a corner.
Yeah, it's a good ball in again. Initially the first header is won by a Forest defender, and then it's Nico Williams that I don't think he knows an awful lot about Fati's header, but he's so close to him. But he's got to give him some credit. He put his body in the way. He's feeling the effects of that ball being headed against his face so close to him.
He sort of just turned into it, didn't he? He turned around and suddenly the ball was coming at him off Fati's head.
I don't think he expected it quite so soon. A little pat of the hands from both players. Good sportsmanship. Back to the business now.
Yeah, and back to the business of trying to deal with the Pascal Gross set piece, because whether it's corners or free kicks, the German really does have a terrific delivery on him. And there's lots of Forest and Brighton players all around Matt Seltz at the moment, the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, for this Pascal Gross corner from the left towards that near post again. It nearly dropped towards Believer. It does to a dinger on the edge of the box, and he has sent that probably about 10 yards over the top of Matt Seltz's bar. Yeah,
I wouldn't have been surprised if that was a finish from myself, to be honest. He's capable of a lot better. He'd be frustrated with that, but you're right. The delivery that Brighton can put into these areas from Gross, Brighton just packing the 6-yard box, trying to give Seltz no room to move, and it can often just be a touch from a defender that goes in when the ball comes in with such quality in those kind of areas.
He's very recognisable, isn't he, Sim, on a Dingra, because he's got that big blonde stripe down the side of his head. Of course, coming back from becoming champions of AFCON with his country as well, which was celebrated here. Forest into Brighton's box, Wood at the far post, Van Hekken clears it away, Gibbs White went for the overhead kick, and because he didn't make connections with the ball and was pretty close to clearing out a Brighton player in the process, he's been penalised for a high boot. So it's a Brighton free kick.
Yeah, it looked quite promising at one point. Chris Wood pulling off to the far post, ball couldn't quite reach there, and when the ball just lofted up into the air, it was Morgan Gibbs White that tried the spectacular overhead kick. He gets a little touch on it, but the ball goes the opposite direction to the goal, and rightly given as a bit of dangerous play, and the referee blowing his whistle for a free kick to Brighton.
To the halfway mark then at the Amex Stadium. Brighton 0, Nottingham Forest 0, as a ball over the top looks for Fati. It's cut out and away by Murillo, who's met that on the half volley to send it high up into the air and back down at the feet of Toffolo, and on the edge of Forest penalty area, Murillo clears it to the halfway line where Brighton pick it up again. No goals here. Burnley leading at West Ham by a goal to 0. Tottenham are 2-0 up at Aston Villa. That's live on 5 Live right now, and John McGinn has just been sent off there, so Villa 2 down and a man down as well. So lots of work to do for Unai Emery's team if they are to rescue anything from that game now. And of course Liverpool against Manchester City live on 5 Live. Don't be fooled by the kickoff time. It is 3:45 this afternoon, and following our coverage here on 5 Live Sports Extra, Brighton against Nottingham Forest, we will pick up commentary of the rugby in Cardiff between Wales and France in the Six Nations as well, which begins online. That is a 3 o'clock start in Cardiff. Here is Veltman for Brighton, the right back, who is a good way forward inside Forest half at the moment. Then Believer shifting his body to try and manoeuvre it away from Forest players. Danilo stuck to his task well in there though.
Yeah, Forest have got to get tighter and put some challenges into these Brighton players. Brighton are knocking the ball around way too easy. They're doing it very well, don't get me wrong, but they need to. I know they've picked up 2 yellow cards, but they've got to get more pressure on the ball than what they're doing at the moment. They just can't keep it for long enough when they do win it.
Here's Evan Ferguson, who badly needs a goal. He hasn't got one since Brighton won at Nottingham Forest in November. It has been a really lean spell for him in terms of Premier League goals, Evan Ferguson, because they were flowing so readily, weren't they? towards the start of 2023. He got 11 goals in total in the last calendar year, but still waiting for his first in 2024. And it's he who's given away the free kick here, and Nottingham Forest have a set piece and a chance to relieve the pressure on the edge of their own box. Brighton 0, Forest 0, Franny Benali.
Yeah, it just gives them a chance to draw breath, maybe organise themselves a little bit. The players just communicate with one another a little bit. And as I was just saying, you know, they just can't keep the ball long enough really to give themselves a chance of getting up the field with any real prolonged, sustained attacks.
I know that you were very much a Southampton player through and through, and anyone, Franny, really remembers you from your Premier League years. It's from your time with Southampton, but one or two might forget that you were with one of the teams that we're seeing today as well. Yeah,
that's right, Chris. I had 3 months on loan at Nottingham Forest and really enjoyed it. It was when David Platt was manager there. Really enjoyed my time there. The supporters were fantastic. Great experience for me as a player that was always the homegrown player, you know, sort of welcoming players to other teams. So, you know, to my club, if you like, at Saints. But yeah, really good city to go and play my football in for a few months.
Pascal Gross just apologising to Veltman, I think, as much as the crowd, because they were the ones who were criticising Gross for not playing a quicker ball there. But Gross was obviously aware that he didn't see Veltman as quick as he should have done, and then was apologising to the whole of the Amex, it felt like.
Yeah, it did seem like that, didn't it?
Van Hecker chipping it forward down that right wing. Adingra, delicious first touch from him into the near post. Seltzer's lost it. Forrest have bundled it behind, and actually the last touch came off a Brighton player, so it's going to be a goal kick. Ferguson was at that near post, but what about that touch from Adingra from that forward pass?
Oh, it was a great run. You know, he's onside most definitely, and it's the ball over his shoulder, and he just takes the ball down his first touch, fires the ball into the near post, and Ferguson, like I say, tries to get across so close to the goal, and the goalkeeper, though, that there's very little room.
I think Seltz looked like he actually got there before Ferguson in the end. I don't know if there was even a touch from the Brighton striker.
No, but it was a good ball in, wasn't it, from Adingra. Good run. It's probably the only place that he could really go, given Adingra's ball in for Ferguson, but Sells dealing with it, and they would have been pleased to have won the goal kick.
Mentioned Simon Adingra winning AFCON with the Ivory Coast. There is a fellow member of that AFCON winning team on the Nottingham Forest bench today, Ibrahim Sangare, who was also part of that squad. Another free kick for Brighton. Forest are doing a job effectively in terms of breaking up play, at least, but there are one or two fouls that have had to have been given by Michael Salisbury already. Yeah,
that's right, Chris, and that one was by Dominguez as well. Again, you know, he's got to be careful. He's on a booking. He sort of bundled, I think it was Veltman over. But yeah, can't be doing that too often, otherwise he could be finding himself in trouble with the referee.
27 minutes played. Estupinian collecting it on the left, sending it in, left-footed, should be Seltz's, and here's the goalkeeper in all yellow for Nottingham Forest. Jumps up, makes a claim inside his 6-yard box. Still Brighton 0, Nottingham Forest 0. It's the third goalkeeper that Nottingham Forest have used this season. Matt Turner's obviously been in and out of the team. Lakodimos came in as well. The Greek had a short spell where he displaced Turner, then lost his place again, and Seltz has then been brought in the January transfer window as Nottingham Forest #1, it seems, from now until the end of the campaign. Fatty down for the byline on that left-hand side for Brighton. Omar Bamadeli has fouled him. He's on a yellow card as well, remember. Fatty is down needing some treatments. Omar Bamadeli is pleading his case to referee Michael Salisbury, who is ignoring Omar Bamadeli at the moment because he's gone to check on the welfare of Ansu Fati first.
Yeah, and it's a long way from us. A little bit difficult to see exactly what the challenge was like, but again, like I just mentioned there, with Dominguez flying into a challenge, you know, when you're on a booking, you've got to be so careful. I think he's won the ball, but he has caught a bit of his opponent as well. He's almost just trod on the top of his foot with the heel of his boot. I don't think it was intentional. He was going for the ball. So the referee's made the correct decision there. He's awarded a free kick, but no yellow card.
And I was just looking at Morgan Gibbs-White as well, who immediately went over to his Nottingham Forest teammate, and I was trying to lip read what he was saying, and essentially it was Andrew, because I saw him say that, be careful, just be a little bit careful, because you are on that yellow card.
Well, exactly. There's a long way to go in this game, isn't there? And the two Forest players have got yellow cards already.
Goalless then, Brighton free kick, left side of the penalty area, Gross into that near post. Seltz has lost it. He's completely lost it. And and the ball has dropped into the back of the net, and the goal is given. What on earth has happened there? Brighton lead Nottingham Forest by a goal to nil. Gross's free kick into that near post. Seltz was under pressure from a couple of Brighton players, and he looks like he's just parried the ball into his own net. And there's lots of Forest players surrounding referee Michael Salisbury at the moment, and clearly this will be looked at to check if there was a foul, but it hasn't been spotted initially by the referee, and as it stands, it's Brighton 1, Nottingham Forest 0.
Yeah, still trying to make sense of it. It was a good delivery in, and everything seemed to stop for a while, and there was a Brighton player that sort of ended up on the floor. So it's a bizarre one, because the on-field officials haven't seen anything wrong. Sells tries to go and punch it, but the ball ends up in the back of the box. There's a lot of players in the 6-yard box. It's almost like it's a combination of Seltz and his defender, just trying to see who it is.
It's on the Benali, is it?
Nothing wrong with it, I don't think. It's a perfectly fine goal. Nothing to give there. I don't know why the Forest players were surrounding.
Yeah, the goal's been given. I mean, you're right, Cranny, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, apart from if you're a Nottingham Forest goalkeeper or defender, because having a watch of that, it is a horror show between Benali and Seltz. Benali and Seltz, a combination of the two of them at the near post, have ended up nudging the ball into their own net. It is dreadful from Forest.
Well, Benali has conceded the foul. He's picked up a booking already, and now he's got in a mix-up with his goalkeeper that's cost his team a goal. Yet another match where Forest have gone without keeping a clean sheet.
I think that is going to go down as an Andrew Benali own goal, but I don't think Matt Seltz particularly covers himself in glory either then, the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper. We were saying they've been having issues with their keepers this season. That is one that Seltz won't want to see again, or indeed Benali, and I doubt Nuno will either, who's just kicked out at fresh air in frustration there down on the touchline in front of us. Half an hour in, Brighton 1, Forest 0, and here's Gibbs White for Forest. Is there a response? Origi might be in behind here. It's Divock Origi. It's stopped by Verbruggen, and the deflection doesn't come back to Chris Wood, who was waiting across the other side of the penalty area, and Brighton escape. Almost an immediate Forest response. Oh,
what a chance, the best chance they've had so far in the game, and they might not get a better one this afternoon, Chris. Origi being released by Gibbs White. He's in on goal, he's got to score. He's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Verbruggen makes a fantastic save to keep his side 1-0 up. But Estepunian was like out of position there, like caught upfield. Good counter-attack from Forest. So easily could have got back on level terms in no time at all.
Well, it'd be interesting to see how Brighton get on in terms of keeping Forest out, because they've not been brilliant with keeping clean sheets this season either. Here comes Williams down the right side for Forest. Now his cross, has that hit a hand? Well, it has gone behind for a corner at least, but Williams' cross was very close to, I think, Lewis Dunk, who was trying to put himself in the way.
Yeah, it was Dunk, I think, that's feeling the effects of it. He's just bent over at the moment. I think the ball caught him in the face. I don't think there was any real handballless decision to make there. You know, maybe being a little bit cruel on Origi, the angle that he had. Veltman shut the angles down very well to make the save, but it was an excellent chance for them. And you'd have to say that the goal that Brighton scored, Chris, that tactic of whipping balls in and around the box and packing the 6-yard box with players, they've done their homework, Brighton, clearly, and they've resulted in a goal for them.
Okay, sounds good.
So Forest corner then, with them trailing Brighton by 1-0 here on 5 Live Sports Extra. Gibbs White is going to take it over on that right hand side. There's 6 players in red inside the box. Gibbs White deep towards the far post. Yates has tumbled inside the penalty area as he was muscling to make himself some room, and it's bounced off a Brighton player and out for a Forest throw on the left, and Dominguez is going to take it.
Yeah, they'll be looking to try and set this up, work something to get a ball back possibly to Dominguez to whip a delivery into the box.
Dominguez has handed the ball over now to Toffolo. Toffolo's taken that throw, but he didn't get it back the way he wanted from Chris Wood, and now Brighton break with Modder, who's asking a fair bit of Evan Ferguson to chase that down. It spins out of play, seen out by Murillo for a Nottingham Forest throw, midway inside their half on this near left-hand side. Harry Toffolo's taken that throw, but referee Michael Salisbury is asking Toffolo to take it back a couple of yards, is he? I'm not too sure.
I think Forest to be frustrated. They've won a throw-in sort of high up the pitch and lost possession. You know, Chris Wood's layoff has been given away again, and it's those kind of little things that you've really got to take the care of the layoff and retaining possession of the football, because the turnovers, if they're happening too often, you're just putting your side under pressure way too much.
It's worth pointing out that if Nottingham Forest are beaten today and Luton beat Bournemouth on Wednesday night in their rearranged Premier League game, then Nottingham Forest will be in the bottom 3 in the Premier League. And that sets it up perfectly for next weekend, because it's Luton at home to Nottingham Forest next Saturday.
Well, I think there's going to be some huge twists and turns for us, isn't there? There's a lot of football that the guys have got to play still. I think it's still well within Forest.
Here's Adingra on the right hand side, little pullback, not enough on it. Danilo stopping it, back with Adingra again. He chips it up to the far post. On Bamidele's header away. They haven't got it away yet. It's dropped to Fati, tried to hit it on the spin. Again, there's Forest players repelling the situation. Dunk gets to it before Gibbs White on the halfway line, and Veltman goes back to Verbruggen. Sorry, Franny, I cut you off mid-stat delivery there.
No, it was more important the delivery into the box, Chris. No, you look at the games that Forest have, you know, they've got these fixtures against teams all around, a lot against sides in the bottom half of the table as well, so they've got to maximise those fixtures. There's only, I think, out of the remaining games, sort of all but 3 or 4 games are against bottom half, currently bottom top 10, so in the second half of the table, so their destiny's in their own hands.
Yeah, they still have to go to Burnley and to Sheffield United right at the end of the season. The next 4 games for Forest: Luton away, as we mentioned, Palace at home, Fulham at home, Spurs away. That's how Nottingham Forest's next few weeks look. But here against Brighton this afternoon, with the lone seagulls soaring above us, it is the Seagulls in front, and here's Ferguson, and he's sent it on its way for Fati, but it's too much on the pass. Roberto De Zerbi stamps his feet in front of us in frustration that the ball wasn't quite right from the Irishman, and it trickles through to Celts.
Yeah, it was a good chance for them, wasn't it? But they were doing so well, stepping in, winning the ball, playing it to Ferguson, and then Ferguson's pass, as you say, just a little bit too heavy for Fati. Good opportunity that for Brighton.
10 minutes to go then in the first half here at the Amex Stadium. Brighton 1, Nottingham Forest 0, and I'll get confirmation in just a moment as to whether that goal that Brighton scored was indeed given as an own goal for Andrew Bamidele. As Nottingham Forest are given a free kick. Have you seen, Franny, improvement from a Forest team under Nuno Espirito Santo compared to the one under Steve Cooper from earlier in the season?
Well, there's been so many changes, isn't there? And I think the hard thing is when a manager like Steve Cooper is liked as much as what he was by so many people, you know, when you part company, it's such a difficult decision. But, you know, Espirito Santo will bring his style, but they've got to stop conceding goals. You know, regardless of who's in charge, if you give goals away too often, you know, you're going to put yourselves under pressure, and that's no sort of surprise that they're in the position they are at the moment. There's sort of 3 teams worse off than them in the division, and there's Everton in the mix as well. They're just above them in the table at the moment. So, you know, sometimes you can survive without really doing that well. It's only a fact that there's sort of 3 worse teams than you, so they've got to improve.
Oh, poor pass out by Verbruggen, the Brighton goalkeeper, and now Gibbs White has it for Forest. Low effort, was scuffed a little bit, didn't get hold of it in the way that he would have liked to, and it runs out of play for a Brighton goal kick, with them leading Forest 1-0.
He's a player that Forest will want to get on the ball though, isn't he? And he's capable of sort of doing what he was trying there, just to sort of get it out of his feet. And sometimes they shape up to hit the far corner, but cleverly often these strikers, they just sort of cut it back through the defender's legs, catch the keeper off guard.
Goal and an assist for Morgan Gibbs White when these two met back in November, but of course it was a game that went Brighton's way, won it by 3-2. They're 1-0 up here, Burnley leading at West Ham by 1-0. Tottenham are 2 up at Aston Villa, that's over on 5 Live right now. Liverpool, Manchester City to come later on. 6:06 from 6 o'clock tonight, so be prepared to have your say with Chris and Robbie, and then on Tuesday we'll have live commentary from the Emirates. Arsenal against Porto in the second leg of that Champions League round of 16 tie, as Murillo with some composed defending. He's been brilliant, Murillo, since he signed for Nottingham Forest. It's hard to believe that he's still 21 years old, the centre half, because he plays like an experienced 28-year-old who's been at the highest level, doesn't he?
Yeah, he did so well there, didn't he? A great turn of pace just to get back and retrieve the ball, but great composure in a tight position as well.
You can tell he's a Brazilian, can't you, when he's got the ball at his feet?
They want to take strikers on, don't they, in the back 4?
They do.
They can do that, the Brazilians, can't they?
There was, I don't know if you remember, back at Crystal Palace a few months ago, he went on a run from inside his own half and went past about 8 Crystal Palace players and almost scored the most majestic goal you'd ever see in the Premier League. Here's Nico Williams for Forest, into the feet of Dominguez. And now Yates, the Forest captain, out on the right-hand side. Williams, this is all being played at the moment inside Brighton's defensive third. Danilo for Forest, trying to turn it round the corner, closed down well by Stupinian, who was over there to block it. Forest retrieve it once more with Danilo, who nips it away from the challenge of Fati. Forest 1-0 down at Brighton inside the Amex Stadium, and we're now moving into the final 6 minutes plus stoppage time of this first half here on 5 Live Sports Extra. Forest going from right to left in this first half, with their visiting fans behind Matt Seltz's goal in their red shirts.
Sorry, Chris.
Sorry, Franny.
I was going to say, it's better from Forest though, you know, the pass has just gone astray there, so it's typical what I was about to say, but it's been better. They're keeping the ball a little bit better. They're sort of pushing Brighton back a little bit more. They need to do this more often to get back into this game, clearly.
Just having another look, aren't we, Franny, at the goal that has been scored, the one goal, and it's Seltz coming out at his near post and pushing the ball onto the back of Omobamidele's head, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's still fine whether it's gone in off the goalkeeper or the defender, but it's not good either way for Forest. You know, it's got to be dealt with much better. Someone take control of it, and more often than not it's the goalkeeper in those scenarios, because they can come out and use their hands.
Officially it has gone down as an Andrew Omobamidele own goal. 5 minutes of the first half to go. Brighton 1, Nottingham Forest 0 here on 5 Live Sports Extra. And following us here, we will pick up commentary of that Six Nations game in Cardiff between Wales and France, as Ansu Fati is late into the challenge and he is going to be booked by the referee. I wondered for a moment whether it was just going to be a word of warning for the little attacking midfielder on loan from Barcelona, but it is a yellow card for Fati.
It was some aggressive sort of defending high up the pitch, and it's only the fact that when he sort of decided to make his tackle, he actually does get a piece of the ball, but it's one of those challenges with the slippery surface where he's gone to ground, he's got to bit the player as well, and the referees judged that as being a bookable offence. But I could see why he was trying to, you know, sort of fight his case a little bit there.
He has had a period on the sidelines, Ansu Fati, but this is his first Premier League start since these two met back in November. As Toffolo progresses down the left-hand side for Forest, they're trailing 1-0. Gibbs White on the edge of the box. The ball's gone backwards to Yates and then into the feet of Danilo, and then for Dominguez, and back with Danilo again with that dyed blonde hair. Murillo on the halfway line for Forest, picking it up again, moving forward, looking for the space to get it to Toffolo on the left, on the periphery of the box for Gibbs White. Tried to nudge it round Jakob Modder, too much of a touch, and Brighton get it away.
Yeah, I'm just seeing that. As Forest recover the ball out wide, Chris Wood has said to Toffolo, he's indicated, put the ball in the box. Don't look for that square pass, just deliver the ball in the box first time.
Might have the chance to do that now. Toffolo, in it comes, swung a left boot at it. Belieber with his side of his foot to clear it away for Brighton. This is a bit better from Nottingham Forest though. They're putting a bit of pressure on Brighton here. Ferguson back there trying to help out his defence. He's done well as well, Evan Ferguson, to support those behind him, and he's also won Brighton a throw in the right back area too.
It's a bit of a dilemma, isn't it, for that Toffolo, for that delivery, and he's got a player like Morgan Gibbs White on the edge of the box that wants a little cut back and a ball played to his feet, and someone like Chris Woods who wants a delivery into the box so that he can go and attack it, probably more likely with his head. So, you know, I can certainly see Chris Woods' frustration at sort of not having the service when they're in those kind of areas, because they haven't got there very often in this game so far.
The referee has stopped play here because Lewis Dunk has asked for some medical assistance. He looks like he might have a facial injury of sorts. There's a couple of Brighton physios tending to him at the moment. Dunk is on his haunches while he is being assessed, and that's giving Roberto De Zerbi the chance to give instructions to one or two of his players down in front of us, and indeed some of Nottingham Forest players are over here as well, getting some fluids on board, and one or two words from members of Nuno's backroom coaching staff too.
Yeah, exactly, an opportunity for players to get some fluids on board. A few conversations taking place between the staff and the players on the pitch, but obviously Dunk has been attended to. He did take that ball to the head, didn't he? I think when Origi sort of put the ball into the box, whether it's some effects from that still, or he's taken a knock whilst going for a challenge. But for a player like him to go down and need to get some kind of treatment, there's clearly something wrong.
You see how wet it is today, because Roberto De Zerbi's black jacket is absolutely sodden down in front of us. It's soaked. It doesn't look like it's a waterproof jacket as well. He is a bit of a man of fashion, as you would expect for an Italian, so I don't know if he's dressed appropriately today.
Looks very stylish indeed.
He does. He always does.
He's not as animated, I must admit, than what he often usually is when we sort of see him in the technical area.
Yeah, well, maybe that's an indication that he's been relatively happy with how Brighton have played so far. Dunkers has had his treatment, so he is okay, but obviously he's had to step off the pitch for 30 seconds, so Brighton are down to 10 men at the moment. Believer's trying to send that ball back to his goalkeeper. He's in the temporary centre-half position at the moment with Dunk off the pitch, and he's done that. And Verbruggen has bowled it out to Estupinian on the left-hand side. He's got nowhere to go, so he's gone back to Believer, and Believer's gone back to Verbruggen, whose clearance has come off Chris Wood. He's got it out to Veltman on the right-hand side, but he nearly careered that straight into the Nottingham Forest forwards.
Did that go through his legs? I'm not sure. It might have even gone through his legs. If it didn't, it was very, very close, wasn't it?
It touched him, didn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't a pass that I think he meant to mean to go so close to the Forest striker.
Foul by Nico Williams, who is too aggressive into the challenge, the Forest right back. So Brighton free kick as Fatu picks himself up off the grounds.
I hope Lewis Dunk is okay. A player like him is always going to say, I want to go back on. You know, clearly the medical staff have had a look at him, taken him off, done their checks, but you know, it's a big thing now, this sort of concussion, isn't it, for players, and you know, how we might sort of get around to support that. There's a lot of talk in the game, isn't there, about concussion substitutes and the effects that sort of head injuries can have on players, so I hope he is okay.
Yeah, you trust really that these days the decision is very much taken out of the players' hands, and it is down to the medical staff now to say whether they continue or not, whether they like it or not. I was at Selhurst Park a few weeks ago, and something happened to Ivo Gerbic, the Sheffield United goalkeeper, and he was absolutely furious. He did not want to come off, but he was told under no circumstances, you've taken the whack to the head, you have to come on.
Yeah, and that's the best policy to deal with it. We now know a little bit more about, you know, the effects and what can actually happen to players that get injuries. So yeah, that's the best course. I get it from a player's point of view. They often say, I'm okay, I don't want to come off, and that's great that they've got that kind of mindset, but these kind of things have got to be looked at properly.
So Forest coming forward down the right hand side. Williams in possession for Nuno Espirito Santo's side, who are 1-0 down, and we're in the 3 minutes of stoppage time that have been indicated as Danilo shifts the ball onto Murillo here, the Forest centre half, who is 20 yards outside Brighton's penalty area at the moment, as Forest look for a response to that bad goal they conceded, the own goal from Omar Bamidele just before the half-hour mark, that has Brighton in the ascendancy on this Sunday afternoon of Premier League football, a Sunday afternoon where Burnley have just scored again at West Ham United. West Ham 0, Burnley 2, so that's turning into a stellar day for Vincent Kompany's side as the ball is sent in from the right hand side. It's too high for Chris Wood in the middle. Toffolo's going to get on the pieces on the left hand side instead for Forest. His cross to the near post, I think it's gone out of play already. It has, it's been indicated by the assistant referee on the opposite side, and it's a goal kick, and it's now Aston Villa 0, Tottenham 3, and Son has just scored a third for Spurs against 10-men Villa.
Well, we've got one goal here, Chris, this afternoon, but there's goals flying in elsewhere, isn't there?
Gives you hope of more to come, doesn't it?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more here this afternoon. It's been some good play from Brighton. Forest have been better in the latter half of this first 45 minutes. They've got back into the game since they've conceded that goal, funnily enough.
Yeah, they have looked more encouraging, haven't they, since going behind, as Veltman just about keeps the ball in on the right hand side for Brighton, tries to send it across the edge of Forest penalty area, stopped by Danilo, who was running backwards to try and help out his defenders. Mod has gone back to Van Hecker on the halfway line. We're in the last 30 seconds of those 3 minimum additional minutes that have been added on at the end of the first half here at the Amex Stadium, as the rain isn't falling too hard, but it is drizzling, and it has been really since kick-off here at Brighton this afternoon, and there are 1 or 2 supporters around us who are taking this moment, certainly those in the front row, to get out of their seats and go and get themselves warm.
Get their early half-time drinks.
Van Hecker, is there an end to this first half for Brighton, which is going to take them into a 2-goal lead, as Belieber collects the ball, bounces off his chest, then off his leg, out of play for a throw, and there is the half-time whistle. So Brighton 1, Nottingham Forest 0. One goal scored by a Forest player for Brighton, Andrew Omobamidele, at his near post on that Pascal Gross corner. Matt Seltz, the Forest goalkeeper, pushing the ball into the back of Omobamidele's head, and it deflecting into the back of his own net. Forest best chance for Divock Origi down the other end. His effort was saved by Verbruggen. But is that about right, Franny Benali, on the balance of play, Brighton's 1-goal lead?
Yeah, I would say so, Chris, definitely. They've controlled the game right from the start of the match. The Forest didn't get back into it in the latter stages, but it took that goal to really almost like shake them up a little bit, it seemed. And Brighton were putting the ball into some dangerous areas, packing that 6-yard box. It's not a good look from Seltz and Omobamidele's perspective, because clearly it should have been dealt with a lot better than what it was, and they've now find themselves with an uphill task in the second 45.
Because you've mentioned how good Brighton have been here. We know 11 games unbeaten in the league at the Amex Stadium. This is not an easy place to come and get something from. It's certainly not easy when you're trailing.
No, exactly, and you touched on it at the top of the commentary, Chris, that they want to bounce back from that heavy defeat midweek in the Europa League. There's got to be a reaction. There's a change of personnel, a lot of changes in the Brighton lineup, so they've got that freshness back in there a little bit. They'll be looking to kick on again and climb the table from the position they're in. Forest have got to get back into the game somehow. Got to try and get in and amongst Brighton a little bit more, be a bit more dangerous, quality into the box, not just having Chris Woods going box, making runs into the box. They need a few more bodies in there as well.
I imagine there is going to be a few harsh words exchanged in that Nottingham Forest dressing room at half-time, because when you are scrapping to try and stay in the division, as you would argue Forest are now, you cannot be conceding goals like that. 1 goal scored for Brighton. They are leading at half-time against Nottingham Forest here on 5 Live Sports Extra by 1-0 as we take you over to Villa Park for the closing stages of the game that's over on 5 Live right now. Aston Villa against Tottenham Hotspur, and then we'll be back here on 5 Live Sports Extra for live second half commentary with Brighton 1-0 up against Nottingham Forest. Let's join Ali Bruce Ball at Villa Park.
A little left-footed cutback. Oh, fabulous finish. Timo Werner opens his body up, turns and points at Son and says thank you very much for a brilliant assist. But that was a really confident finish from Timo Werner, and Tottenham now having fun at Villa Park. Villa 0, Tottenham 4.
Brilliant, absolutely fantastic from Heung-min Son, and then the finish from Werner. But the little bit of play just in front of us here, Ali, just down the left-hand side, it was absolutely top draw. Brilliant goal, brilliant Tottenham performance, and I'm sure they'll take confidence from this going forward now.
Villa Park almost deserted in terms of the stands where the home fans sit. So in this Trinity Road stand, the Doug Ellis stand, certainly the right-hand side of it as we look across the pitch. The north stand, only a quarter full away to our left-hand side. Heavy defeat for Aston Villa at home. Tottenham with 2 early goals in this second half from Maddison and Johnson, then the McGinn red card, and Tottenham at the end of this game have just punished Aston Villa, and who knows how important the goal difference could be come the end of the season. Tottenham's is moving to plus 20, Aston Villa's is dropping back to plus 18. Tough afternoon for Aston Villa.
It's huge, Ali, it's huge when you come to goal difference. We always say, don't we, it's worth an extra point sometimes, goal difference. So to see Tottenham now, oh, here we go,
they're looking for another here for a 5th. Right hand side is Kulusevski, down by the byline, back to Son maybe looking for a 1-2 with Bentancur, decides to turn inside the Villa penalty area, runs into a cul-de-sac there. We've still got 5 minutes of added time to go. Tottenham leading Aston Villa by 4-0 here. Porro's trying to keep the ball in play on the right. Tottenham have won a throw. Another goal at Celtic, Kenny Crawford.
22 minutes gone, Ali. Celtic 2, Livingston 1. It's a second of the afternoon for Japan international Daisen Maeda. Michael McGovern couldn't keep out Matt O'Reilly's shot. He parried it, and there was Daisen Maeda to head it in. Trickled in. 2-1 Celtic.
Villa 0, Tottenham 4. 4 minutes of added time remaining. 3:45 kick-off this afternoon. Liverpool against Manchester City. Full commentary on the way. Tottenham just 2 points behind Aston Villa in the table with the win. Kulusevski's ball from the dead ball line is blocked by Douglas Luiz, but Tottenham still have it. Lots of players here still in attacking positions. Kulusevski stopped in his tracks by Torres, edge of the box. Watkins tries to flick a header to a teammate. Tottenham win that one as well. Bissouma casually strokes a diagonal across to the left. Cash leaps up and nods the ball down. Moussa Diaby in the right back position. Passes forward to Cash, who's kicked by Bentancur, knocked over. and that'll be a free kick for Tottenham.
Yeah, needed that Aston Villa just to try and see the game out. No more goals. That's exactly what they'll be thinking, no more goals, even though Tottenham are doing their best to try and get another one. I think Tottenham have been brilliant today. I really do. I think they've nullified Ollie Watkins. We spoke about him before the game, about the form he's been in this season, and to nullify him and do what they've done has been really, really good. I think it's a real good performance.
Long ball over the top looking for Ollie Watkins. Dragusin gets his body in the way. Højbjerg plays back to Destiny Udogie. Just coming up to 3 o'clock as well, which means Wales-France about to start in the Six Nations. Commentary of that will start online, available via the BBC Sports website and app. You can also watch the game on BBC One. So Tottenham starting the day plus 16 goal difference. Their goal difference improves to plus 20. Villa starting on plus 22. Surely they go back to plus 18. So more good news for Tottenham. And Tottenham now have a player down as the game is dwindling away. It's going to be a free kick for Tottenham just inside the Villa half, but it's going to be interesting to see what sort of impact this result and these two performances have on both teams as we head into the closing games of the season, and particularly Villa at home against Ajax on Thursday night, because Unai Emery hasn't seen this too often in his time as Aston Villa manager.
Yeah, Ali, I think they've got to dust themselves down as quick as they possibly can. I think it's important that, listen, you try and put it to one side, you look at where you've gone wrong, you look at where you can get better, you analyse the game as much as you can, but also understand you're having a fantastic season. This one result doesn't determine what your season's been like, so something that'll hit them hard, but it's important they dust themselves down getting ready for Thursday.
Tottenham take the free kick. Højbjerg and Basuma were standing about 2 yards apart, must have played 7-1-2s between each other before Villa even came and closed the ball down. The game is up. The Tottenham fans you can hear singing loudly, and Tottenham fans I'm sure will want their say on 6:06 this evening. Chris Sutton celebrating his birthday today, by the way, so make sure you wish him a happy birthday on 6:06 tonight. He'll be appearing on the Fantasy 606 podcast again this week, which comes out every Thursday on the BBC Sounds app. I think he's a Son Heung-min owner, so the Son goal and assist will please him too this afternoon. They'll certainly please Ange Postecoglou. Tottenham leading by 4-0, just over a minute to play, with Liverpool, Manchester City to follow. Full commentary on the way on 5 Live. Werner, has he kept that ball in play? No, he hasn't, down by the dead ball line. So Villa will have themselves a goal kick with a minute to go.
Hopefully Chris is in a good mood.
He should be today, Chris, shouldn't he, of all days? Yeah. Yeah. He plays the grump sometimes, Connor, I think, actually. You get to know him, he's a pretty cheery chap, is Chris. I think he'll be in good form this evening on 6:06. So make sure you get your calls in. Chris, part of the Monday Night Club, of course, tomorrow night as well. Mark Chapman and the team. Updates of Chelsea, Newcastle into that one. Full commentary of Arsenal, Porto in the Champions League on Tuesday night. Some win for Tottenham here at Villa Park this afternoon. It's amazing how empty Villa Park is in terms of the amount of home fans that have left. Diego Carlos gets a foot in as Kulusevski tries to get away from him, and Tottenham will have a late corner here. My stopwatch tells me we've got about 10 seconds to play. Will they have time to take the corner? They'll have time to do that. They won't get the ball into the box. They don't need to. That is a thumping win, and a really important win for them as well, because it moves them to within 2 points of Aston Villa. They've still got the game in hand. Villa on 55 points and Tottenham on 53. It all happened in the second half. James Maddison and Brennan Johnson with early goals. The win was wrapped up by Son Heung-min and Timo Werner. And we know this, don't we, Connor? We've seen this from this Ange Postecoglou team. When they're on it, Tottenham, particularly if they've got space to play, and John McGinn was sent off in the second half, they can be absolutely lethal.
Oh, we've seen it tonight. We've seen it today, sorry. I think it's been a Tottenham performance, one of the best ones we've seen in a while. Listen, they're a top side anyway. We've seen big performances from them, but that second half I thought was phenomenal. I thought the fluidity they played with, Maddison getting the ball deep, playing through to Son, Kulusevski one side, Brennan Johnson, who by the way has just come into the team and played a lot, kind of coming from the bench in the last few weeks, I thought was outstanding. Some fantastic goals, and full credit to Tottenham. I thought they were brilliant.
You said to me at half-time, it's not going to be 0-0, is it?
I did, yeah. But we didn't expect it to be 0-0, I'll be honest. We expected goals in the second half. We really did, from two teams. Like I said, I think for Aston Villa, I think it's about dusting yourself down. This doesn't take away from the season they're having. They've got a big season, a big final few games ahead of them. But yeah, listen, going back to Tottenham, they were absolutely outstanding today.
4 goals in the second half. They all belong to Tottenham. 2 points behind Aston Villa in the race for the top 4, and they flipped the goal difference on them in this very game as well. It's finished Villa 0, Tottenham 4.
Ali, Connor, thank you both very much indeed. Statement victory in the Premier League this afternoon for Tottenham Hotspur. Remember, there are 2 Premier League games that are at half-time right now. Brighton 1, Nottingham Forest 0, which you can listen to on 5 Sports Extra. West Ham 0, Burnley 2. Not sure anybody would have seen that coming. That one is available for you in full via the BBC Sport website. We are live here inside Anfield. Just in the last 10 seconds or so, the Liverpool goalkeepers and the goalkeeping coaching staff, which involves the likes of the great Taffarel, have appeared just beneath us on the left-hand side, and that tells us that it's just about time to really start the build-up, ramping up to Liverpool versus Manchester City. Massive day in the title race, even though neither of them, of course, start the day top of the Premier League. Either of them could by the end of the afternoon. It's cold, it's wet. All the world's media are here for this one today. As I look down, we're really up in the gods of Anfield, high in the stand. You can see blue and white and red and white umbrellas littering the side of the pitch. It's a big one. We'll tell you all about it after the news on 5 Live with Stuart Clarkson.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Israel is tightening security in Jerusalem as preparations begin for Ramadan. Thousands of police have been deployed in the Old City, where tens of thousands of worshippers are expected daily at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Mediators have been hoping for Israel and Hamas to agree a pause in the fighting in Gaza before Ramadan started, but talks have stalled. The Health Secretary Victoria Atkins says the government's approach to tackling extremism will balance freedom of speech and the right of citizens to go about their daily lives. Ministers are expected to announce a new definition of extremism in the coming days. The Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves has played down hopes of a rapid improvement in public services if Labour wins the next general election. She's told the BBC there'd be an initial injection of cash, but warned the party would not be able to turn things around straight away. Police in South East London have begun a murder investigation after a man was shot dead this morning. Officers were called to Catford Broadway in Lewisham at around 4:30am. There've been no arrests, and preparations are underway for the Oscars in LA tonight. Oppenheimer is among the favourites for several awards. It has 13 nominations.
Red Nose Day is back.
3, 2, 1, go!
Grab your popcorn and fizzy rosé for The Traitors, the movie.
Yes!
Regional radio legend Alan Partridge is back for a special comic relief broadcast.
It's that time.
And it may be Seleni's last year hosting, but don't worry, the fine folks at W1A will be finding his replacement.
It's a big job, a huge challenge.
Get ready for comic relief, funny for money. Tomorrow at 7 on BBC iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sport
with Steve Crossman.
On 5 Live. Listen on BBC Sounds.
We are 45 minutes away from kick-off here at Anfield. Many people will have this as the biggest game of the season so far, even though when you look at the Premier League table, first position, Arsenal, 64 points from their 28 games. Then Liverpool, 63 from 27. And Manchester City in third, 62 from 27. We could end the weekend with 3 different teams having led the division over the course of 48 hours. That is how close this is this season. Massive game to come at Anfield. Let's get the full team news with correspondent John Murray.
Well, the news is from Liverpool that Mohamed Salah is only a substitute. There is no Konate. He was injured in Prague on Thursday night. And surprisingly, Andy Robertson is only on the bench for this game. Joe Gomez is going to play at left-back. Jurgen Klopp's been speaking about this, Steve, in the past few moments when he's given his interviews to television before the match. He says the reason for that is it's all about rhythm with Andy Robertson. That's what he says. He's not long back from injury, the shoulder operation that he's been out with for so much of the season. Although in saying that, he has played in 9 matches, started 5 of them, come on as a substitute in 4. But Jurgen Klopp says he started 2 in a row, so therefore Joe Gomez gets the nod at left back. It'll be interesting to hear what Pat Nevin's got to say about that in a moment or two. And as for Salah, he said not even a consideration that he would start this match. So he was always going to be on the bench, according to the Liverpool manager. So the Liverpool team, Kelleher in goal, Bradley, Kwanzaa, Van Dijk and Gomez. Then in the midfield, Endo, Szoboszlai returning to the starting lineup, and McAllister. And then Elliott, Nunez and Diaz, the front line. So Gakpo is also on the bench, as well as Mohamed Salah. And for Manchester City, the surprise there is that Ruben Diaz is not in the starting lineup. Pep Guardiola has said this is all about the extra pace of Manuel Akanji. So the Manchester City team is Ederson in goal, and then at the back, Walker, Stones, Akanji and Ake, with obviously, you would think, Stones stepping into the midfield alongside Rodri, then Foden, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva and Alvarez, and that man Haaland up front. And also Jeremy Doku returns as one of the substitutes.
Pat Nevin, you've had quite the week. You've been to some of the great stadiums in European football. This isn't a bad way.
Big game on 5 Live that is taking place at 3:45. Liverpool against Manchester City. Do not miss that. But make sure you're with us here on 5 Live Sports Extra. And a very loud MX Stadium right now as they boom the Brighton anthem over the PA system. We're about to get underway in the second half. Myself, Chris Wise and Franny Benali with you. Brighton leading Nottingham Forest by 1-0 as Brighton kick off this second half, going from right to left, and the ball goes back to Lewis Dunk, who immediately lofts one out to that far left-hand side, and it's headed upfield by Murillo, the Forest centre half, to get it away. So Brighton 1, Forest 0. The goal just before the half hour, an own goal from Andrew Omobamidele. It has finished Aston Villa 0, Tottenham 4. So in terms of the top of that table, Spurs now just 2 points behind Aston Villa, and they have a game in hand as well. And we know that Arsenal last night went to the top of the Premier League table after beating Brentford by 2-1, a game that you would have heard here on 5 Live. And as Steve Crossman was saying a moment ago, we could find ourselves in a position where we have 3 teams all in the space of effectively 24 hours that have spent different periods of time at the top of that Premier League table. It's going to be a belter, Liverpool against Manchester City. Here come Brighton for the first time in this second half. Estupinian getting a bit fortunate as the ball bounces off Yates and back into his path on the left flank, and then Estupinian's cross bounces off Yates, back off Estupinian, and out of play for a Nottingham Forest goal kick. Franny Benali.
I think we can tell what Estupinian and the home supporters felt what it should have been, but I think the referee got it right. Just seen a little clip, goal kick to Forest, but a positive start again in these early stages from Brighton on the front foot. Forest need to up their game definitely from what we saw in those early stages in the first half, and then falling behind. To get back into this, they've got to be a little bit braver, take a few chances, be a little bit more aggressive out of possession of football.
I'll give you the team news in just a moment for both of these teams, just to remind you of how they look as Gibbs-White tries to bring it down on the halfway line. Wood with a lovely flip back to him, Gibbs-White, and off goes Origi into the box, angle a bit tight, he's hit it over the top of the bar. It wasn't the cleanest hit from Divock Origi, who was still waiting for his first Nottingham Forest Premier League goal, and it's about 5 yards in the end over Verbruggen's bar.
Yeah, good build up from Forest there and breaking away from the middle of the park. Gibbs-White just releasing Origi. There's no doubt about him being offside at all. The angle is quite tight, but do your best to try and get it back across goal, and at very least make the goalkeeper make a save in those positions. You don't know, there might be a rebound, a little deflection somehow. Anything can happen.
Oh goodness me, Brighton nearly got themselves in a right mess there. Forest have got the ball on the edge of their penalty area. Danilo can't bring it down. There was a suggestion he might have used his arm. Then Ferguson has lunged in at the feet of Ryan Yates, and it is a Nottingham Forest free kick here, 10 yards outside Brighton's penalty area for that rash challenge by their Republic of Ireland forwards.
Yeah, and there's a decision to be made there, what was given by the referee, but Lewis Dunk playing that ball across the 6-yard box, it was certainly a stray pass. And then the challenge where Ferguson went into Yates, both players on the ground, whether that's Ferguson almost trying to look for a little bit of sympathy from the referee, being quite clever and cute, I'm not sure, but he's holding his knee, I think, but Yates certainly was the one that had the connection in the challenge from Ferguson. And it's a pretty central area, albeit a quite long way out, that this free kick is now for Forest, and Verbruggen's got to set his wall up right.
And at the moment he is sort of leant forward with his backside up against his left post, organising that Brighton wall for this Forest free kick.
It's just a 2-man wall actually, Chris, isn't it? You know, surprising. I know it's quite a long way out, but I thought he would have had at least 3, if not 4.
Gibbs White is a pretty good set-piece specialist. Murillo's over this free kick as well. It's exactly 10 yards outside the box and it's almost dead centre as well. 4 minutes into the second half, and just as Gibbs White and Murillo were sizing it up, the referee has stopped play again because a little bit of pushing and shoving between Omobamidele and Veltman was going on in that long line of players that are right across the edge of the penalty area. Now Forest are going to get the chance to take that free kick. It is Gibbs White who has left it. It's Murillo who's hit it. He hit it well, but he hit it straight at Verbruggen, chest height, and he clings on to it, the Brighton goalkeeper.
Yeah, it was a good strike, but straight at Verbruggen. He set his wall up well. He obviously knew what he was doing, having just the two defensive players in his wall. It was a wonderful strike. If he could have got a little bit more whip on it or started it out and not set it off straight at Verbruggen, could have been quite an interesting attempt at goal.
So Brighton 1, Forest 0. So let me give you the two teams with Brighton in possession inside their own half. Verbruggen in goal for the Seagulls. Veltman, Van Hecke, Dunk, Estupinian, Baliba, Gross, and then Modder, Fati, Adingra and Ferguson. And for Nottingham Forest, Seltz the goalkeeper, Williams, Omobamidele, Murillo and Toffolo, Dominguez, Danilo and Yates. And then Origi and Gibbs White either side of Chris Wood, who is back in the Nottingham Forest team today for the first time since the end of January, having just recovered from a hamstring injury, as Gibbs White scraps for it on the halfway line. Bit of hunger about this Forest team at the start of the second half. Danilo's got it in the middle of the pitch, left-footed ball out to Toffolo. Toffolo's pull back, it wasn't quite good enough for Gibbs White. It's swept away by Modder and out of play for a Forest throw on the far left.
It was a great build-up by Forest down the left-hand side on this occasion, but it was only Origi in the box for the delivery of the cross, which is why I think he cut it back, trying to find one of the supporting players on the edge of the box there. Just need to try and burst forward a little bit more, be a bit braver in one or two situations like that to get back into the box. Need more bodies in there to get more opportunities to pick someone out.
So Brighton, who began the day in 10th after Wolves win yesterday, it's the lowest Brighton have been in the Premier League table all season. They could go 7th with a win today. Forest 3 points above the relegation zone, so a big afternoon for them as Toffolo sends it in left-footed. It's come off Dunk awkwardly, almost off the shins, went careering up into the sky and behind, and Forest have a corner and they're attacking that end where all their fans are in this second half.
Exactly, give them a little bit of heart, and their supporters are trying to lift the team on the pitch as well. Dunk positioning himself really well, but he would have liked to have cleared that a little bit more confidently than what he did.
He had a bad moment, didn't he, Lewis Dunk, on Thursday night? Most unlike him, when he miscontrolled the pass to allow Romelu Lukaku to run away and score for Roma, and then the goals kept on coming against Brighton, beaten 4-0 on Thursday night. That second leg is here this Thursday, but it is a huge ask now of Roberto De Zerbi's side if they are going to continue their first ever European adventure. Forest corner, they're 1-0 down at Brighton. Gibbs White with it in towards goalkeeper Verbruggen, who came out, missed his punch. Murillo's won the second header, and then it's hit away on the volley by Ansu Fati upfield to the halfway line. But Franny Benali, this is a very positive start to the second period from Forest.
Yeah, and you touched on it at the end of the first half, Chris, that there quite possibly would have been some strong words in the dressing room, and I think Nuno Espirito Santo, he's gone in and he's got into his players, I would imagine, and he's certainly seen a bit of a reaction. They've started better than they did the first half, but they've got to do something better than what they did in the first half to get back into this game. They're a goal down. If they want to get something from it, they've got to be braver, they've got to be more positive.
They've lost 11 of their last 16, Nottingham Forest, in the Premier League. 4 of their last 5 in all competitions. To get that win relatively recently over West Ham United, but aside from that, it's been a difficult few weeks, compounded by that controversial defeat that they suffered really unfortunately against Liverpool last week, as Gibbs White delicately spinning on the halfway line. Did well initially, Gibbs White, but in the end the Brighton players get around him. Nuno Espirito Santo thinks there should have been a free kick, and instead Brighton attack down the other end. Estupinian to Fati, 5 yards outside the penalty area. Estupinian going one side of him, Fati coming back out to the middle of the penalty area. He's now got it to the right hand side for Adingra. Adingra's cross has come off Toffolo, it's come back off the Ivorian, and it's gone behind for a goal kick. Brighton 1, Forest 0. Franny Benali.
Yeah, it looked promising at one point there, didn't it? And it came to nothing in the end. The ball going to Adingra, trying to get past his opponent, but one of those little close deflections that goes in favour of the visiting team.
Talk about Roberto De Zerbi, Franny. You were saying in the first half that you didn't think he'd been as animated in this game today as we've seen him previously. I've just seen him step out of his technical area there to Perhaps G his troops up a little bit, sensing that Nottingham Forest have started with more purpose in this second period.
100%, Chris. Yeah, Forest have started the second half well, so De Zerbi's out shouting at his team on the pitch to try and help them somewhat from the technical area.
And they're on the back foot again here. Nico Williams away from Estupiñán on the right. That was too easy. In towards Dunk, who is there on the edge of the 6-yard box to clear it away for Brighton. Now with Dominguez and with Yates 5 yards outside the box looking for Williams as well. It was a difficult pass to play as Williams won a corner there. I think the last touch came off Estupiñán, but the decision from referee Michael Salisbury is goal kick.
And it's not just the players on the pitch, the Forest players, the Forest bench also very, very unhappy with that. And it looks like Nico Williams has received a yellow card for his demonstrations and expressing his feelings, but that was positive play from Forest. They've got to do more of that. He's got to get into those areas. He had a chance to whip the ball in, he got the ball into the box. Brighton defended it pretty well, but then again it comes back in. I don't think there's any doubt about him being offside. Just getting another look at it now. Even the replay is a tricky one. Might get a better angle from this next replay. Yeah, I think he's got a good case. I think it looks like it's a corner.
It should be a corner. It's come off Estupiñán's left boot, and if the referee's not giving a free kick there, which he didn't do, that should be a Forest corner. Brighton have a goal kick and they've immediately relinquished possession again. Here's Origi. Estupiñán just about blocking his path. Origi tumbling, no free kick. Now with Williams. There is certainly some fight about Forest in this second half. 10 minutes into it, they're trailing 1-0, but Danilo's just given the ball away, and Ansu Fati tries to run round the side of Omar Bamadeli, who read the situation brilliantly well for his centre half, and he gets possession back for the visitors.
Good defending. It was a great bit of skill initially, but Omar Bamadeli has done well. Good pace, read the situation. Much better from Forest. Nuno Espirito Santo will be pleased with the way that his team have approached this second half.
And he said his team are playing well this week, Nuno Espirito Santo, without getting their rewards, as Gibbs White goes right through the middle. Out comes Verbruggen, just gets there first, the Brighton goalkeeper. Plunges down onto the ball at the feet of Morgan Gibbs White. It was a bit unlucky that Gibbs White couldn't quite reach it.
Yeah, it was a good run, wasn't it? Sort of up against just a one-on-one at the back, but Verbruggen, smart, quick out from his 6-yard box to smother the danger. Again, looking to players like Gibbs White, I think, Forest to try and get the team back into this game.
1-0 Brighton lead through that own goal from Omar Bamadeli in the first half. 11 minutes into the second half here on 5 Live Sports Extra. And the former Premier League defender Franny Benali is part of our commentary team this afternoon. Liverpool and Manchester City meeting from 3:45. It's live on 5 Live as the ball goes back to Verbruggen under pressure from Woods. Did it really well, the Brighton goalkeeper, to get that out towards Veltman on the right hand side, because he was under some serious pressure. That was a precise pass.
Well, the ball back to him wasn't the best, was it? Certainly a goalkeeper wouldn't want one bouncing like that with the pace that it was played back at. So his touch was excellent and his pass was equally as good out to the other side. So yeah, give credit to Verbruggen on that occasion. Good play from him.
Forest are going to make a couple of changes. I can see Elanga and Sangare getting their tracksuit tops off in the dugout down to our right hand side. It looks like Tariq Lamptey's about to come on for Brighton as well, because he's just putting a green bib on at the moment, but he's got his shirt exposed, so I think he's going to come on shortly too. So both these teams are going to make changes as Fati picks it up for Brighton, forward towards Adingra. Murillo sliding at his feet, wins the initial challenge, and then as the ball goes loose, Modder is strong enough to see him off and get the ball back again for Brighton. There's a real tempo about this second half that wasn't there in the first.
Yeah, and it's good to see, isn't it? It's become more of a spectacle now. I think both sets of supporters realise that they've got a part to play in trying to lift their teams, but it's a more of a competitive match now. I think what we're seeing, it's not just one side keeping the ball, passing the ball unchallenged. Both sides are really getting in and amongst the challenges a little bit more now, and it's much more of an even game.
It's Nottingham Forest team who have picked up 9 points away from home in the Premier League this season, which actually is more already than they managed in the whole of the last campaign away from home. So where Forest have improved is away from the City ground this season. There's Veltman collects it for Brighton on the right hand side. They're 1-0 up here as we're moving towards the hour. Veltman for Fati, takes a touch, edge of the box, lucky bounce initially, he strikes towards goal, held by Seltz, right at him, dives on the ball inside his 6-yard box.
Just shows how dangerous both sides can be once they counter-attack quickly. Ball dropping for Fati, gets a little bit lucky with the bounce, as you say, but a pretty Comfortable save, I would say, for Sells on that occasion.
Let's have a couple of Premier League goals. Ansu Fati got one in September against Aston Villa, another in October against Manchester City, but none since then in the top flight, as Gibbs White brings it down on the halfway line. He's seen more of the ball in this second half for sure. And then a robust challenge between Williams and Estupiñán. It's come off the Brighton player. Williams has taken it quickly, that throw down the right hand side. Origi's got away from Belieber. He's tried to pull the ball back, and sweeping up was Modder on the edge of the box, but Forest get it again. Danilo 10 yards outside the penalty area with Williams on the right hand side. His low ball in is stopped, and Brighton want to get the ball away here because they're under a bit of pressure, and eventually the foul on Estupiñán by Origi is going to give Brighton the opportunity to relieve the pressure, and we're going to see those changes now. There's going to be two from both Lamptey and Welbeck coming on for Brighton, and Sangare and Elanga for Forest.
Yeah, it's Forest are getting into those areas as we're making the substitutions. They're doing that a lot better this second half, Chris, and it's just the final delivery at times where they've got to really just make that position that they find themselves in. It was Nico Williams there, Origi on a couple of occasions. That final ball has just got to be that little bit better, or again, players in the box, getting bodies into the box, and then the quality of the delivery into those players has got to be just that little bit better to give them a chance of scoring a goal.
So let's have a look at the players that are coming off here then, because for Forest it is Danilo and Origi who have been removed for Sangare and Elanga. This is Ibrahim Sangare's first Forest appearance since Boxing Day. He went off to AFCON to represent his country and eventually the winners, Ivory Coast, and then picked up a knee injury, so he's back for Forest today, and Elanga's come on for Origi on that right hand side. And for Brighton, Ferguson's come off for Welbeck and Fati's been removed for Tariq Lamptey, so there might be a shift in tactics here from Roberto De Zerbi as well, looking at the changes that he has just made. Brighton leading Nottingham Forest 1-0, and we have moved past the hour mark now as Veltman glides down the right hand side for the Seagulls in towards Welbeck. Back with Veltman again, and then he turns and plays it back towards Van Hecker, who gives it to Lewis Dunk. Back with Van Hecker again. Brighton going from right to left in the blue and white as the ball is all the way back with Verbruggen. It's very difficult to know as an opposing team which Brighton goalkeeper is going to be playing, because Roberto De Zerbi chops and changes between Jason Steele and Bart Verbruggen so much. It's the Dutchman who's got the call today.
Yeah, it's good to have that competition. I think you need that. It's healthy for any club, any environment. You know, you want quality in each of the positions and players that are pushing one another to raise the bar and the level and the standard that you see within the first 11 that are chosen in any game.
Problem for Brighton has been clean sheets going back to last season, only 3 in their last 31 Premier League games for the Seagulls. But they've got one here at the moment, 1-0 up against Forest, as Estupiñán rolls his foot over the ball, 10 yards outside the box. Now it's with Welbeck to Lamptey on the left hand side. Lamptey's cross, bit too much on it, and it's going to bounce away from Adingra, and it's a Forest throw on the left.
No, I can't help but smile, Chris. I'm sorry to go back to De Zerbi on the touchline. It was Lamptey's cross with his left foot. It was almost like he knew he got into a good position, but it was overhit and went out for the throw, as you mentioned, but he was just hopping like Tigger. Just frustrated that it was a good opportunity to ball into with a bit of quality into a dangerous area, and he wasn't able to do it.
Lives and breathes it, doesn't he, Roberto De Zerbi? Here's Elanga for Forest. First time we've really seen him on the ball since coming on. Elanga's gone up to the edge of the box. He's still going, the former Manchester United man. He tries to get it to Wood. Wood was stretching and he couldn't return it to Elanga, who'd continued his run. And Brighton retrieve it with Lamptey on this right hand side, and now Gross, who's helped it on, and Welbeck, who's collected it. But Welbeck's got a lot to do and he hasn't got anyone up with him at the moment. He's on the left flank, he's carried it into the final third, but he's had to go back for Gross because Brighton don't have the bodies to support.
No, they didn't, and clever play from Welbeck, just keeping possession for his team. Don't think he fancied a foot race either with his opponent. It's probably a wise decision just to keep possession of the ball, work their way back into the game again. Ball's turning over a little bit more often in this second half, isn't it, for both sides?
Remember, on the BBC Sport website right now you can listen to live commentary of the Six Nations game in Cardiff between Wales and France. The two teams right now are the bottom. Wales in 6th, France in 5th. Wales have lost all their games so far, but they're winning today. They're 10-6 up against France. And once we're done here at the Amex Stadium, we will pick up live commentary of that game from Cardiff, and of course we've got the big one on Merseyside as well over on 5 Live, and the football Liverpool against Manchester City, which gets underway in less than half an hour from now in that massive game at the top of the table. But for Nuno Espirito Santo, who is on our little screen in front of us right now with his arms folded, it's all about matters at the bottom. Forest 3 points above the relegation zone right now, and as we alluded to in the first half, if there is a win for Luton in the week in that rearranged game against Bournemouth, then Forest will fall into the relegation zone ahead of their game at Luton next weekend. They will be well aware of all of that.
Most definitely. It's so fine and so close down there, isn't it? You know, there's not much in the way of points separating a number of the teams, and it's one of those things, a psychological thing, I think, as well. Whenever, if you do drop into that bottom 3 at any stage, it's a bit of a psychological one as well. You've got to be strong and just think, well, okay, it's, you know, there's still time, it's still in our hands. You've got to almost like ignore it as best you can. But I know, speaking from experience, that, you know, as a player, you know, or a supporter, you can't but help that look at tables, especially when you're in and around as close as you are, whether you're in the bottom 3 or you're close to it.
Sangare, Forest are still in this game, they really are. Out to Elanga on the right, Elanga's touch, silly from Estupiñán. He's just smashed into Elanga, barged him in the back. Elanga is down at the moment in a crumpled heap off the pitch, clinging onto the back of his left leg, because it was a nasty fall really from Elanga, and he didn't have time to prepare himself for the challenge that was coming from Estupiñán either.
No, it was clumsy and it's sort of unneeded from Estupiñán. Elanga's sort of like looking to, the ball's bouncing, but he's got his body in between Estupiñán and the ball as it's dropping down, and he's just barged into him and conceded the free kick in a dangerous area.
So Elanga's on his feet, but he's got a bit of the white touchline paint now on the back of his red shirt, and Gibbs White's going to take this free kick over on this right hand side. Forest trailing Brighton by 1-0. Gibbs White raises that left arm into the air to tell those in the middle about where this is going to go. There's plenty that are moving in there to try and manoeuvre some space. In it comes from Gibbs White. It was flat, cleared away as far as Toffolo, who's 15 yards outside the box. Now out to the left-hand side for Dominguez, who sent it down the left-hand side for Murillo, the centre-half, who has stayed forward and is now trying to utilise some creative wing play to make the space. Murillo, he had 2 to contend with. He can't make the room. Brighton give it away again. Toffolo's taking it on his chest. There's 1 or 2 asking for handball. That's not given. Now, can this ball get into the box for Forest? They've worked it to the edge of the penalty area instead for Gibbs White, who's 15 yards outside the box. Good initial challenge from Motta. That's not a nice one though. The second one was terrible on Williams. That is really silly from Jakob Motta, and there's lots of Forest players surrounding referee Michael Salisbury at the moment, asking for the colour of the card to be red for that from Motta.
Yeah, and it's both sets of players. The Forest players are surrounding the referee a little bit, almost encouraging him to make that decision for a red, and the Brighton players are doing the same, almost fighting his cause. But it didn't look good in real time, did it? There was definitely a bit of ground he was trying to make out. He was travelling at full speed, and then he's lunged into the challenge, and it's a yellow card that he engaged from the home supporters' reaction. It's a yellow card he issues, but it's an interesting one. It's one of those fine line ones that could easily have gone the other way. He wins the initial tackle with Gibbs White, and then he's challenging for the ball, but he's probably just a bit fortunate. He gets a little something on it, just very, very slightly, I think. No, he doesn't.
No, it's not a good tackle, is it?
It's not good. And he catches Nico Williams on the ankle.
It's high. It's a bit too high, really, and under the current laws. And there is a check. And there is a check on this, and I think Jakob Motta's in trouble.
He's in trouble. I think if VAR are looking at it like they are, I think they're going to have a word with the referee, Michael Salisbury, to probably go and have a look at the incident. He's out of control. He's off the ground. He's challenging with studs showing. I think he's in trouble on that. He's got to go.
Yeah, and Craig Pawson is today's VAR, and I imagine that he is going to be instructing Michael Salisbury very shortly to go and look at the screen, because from the moment Jakob Motta leapt into that challenge, and he did leap with outstretched legs, you thought if you don't get the ball here, you're in trouble, and he's planted his studs into Nico Williams' ankle.
Yeah, and I'm gauging from, again, the reaction that VAR have said there's nothing to look at. I'm amazed.
I am too.
He's out of control. He's in the air. It's a straight leg. He catches Nico Williams on his ankle with his studs. He's endangered his opponent.
I have to say, I am flabbergasted that Michael Salisbury has not at least gone to look at that or been told to.
Unbelievable. I'm amazed, to be honest, but he's a very lucky guy.
We have seen incidents so similar to that this season that have resulted in red cards. He's out of control, he doesn't get the ball, the studs have landed on Williams' ankle. It's just a yellow card. That is going to be a talking point for Nottingham Forest, and they've had enough of those with referees in the last week. Free kick they have anyway. Can they still make something of it, Nottingham Forest? Gibbs White over it, curling it in, right-footed towards that far post. It bypassed absolutely everybody, and then Murillo, who was at the very back of the queue, can't keep it in play, and it's behind for a goal kick.
They've got to stay focused, Forest. You know, they can't let this incident sort of almost what you could say another official's decision going against them. You would say they've just got to stay focused. They've been a lot better. They've just got to find that little bit of quality that will find the breakthrough to enable them to try and get back on level terms with Brighton.
Well, Forest, after what happened last week against Liverpool with Paul Tierney and the controversial ending at the City grounds, the last thing that Forest fans wanted today would be to have another conversation about a game-changing moment that sits with officials. But I think that's what we've got here. Here's Estupiñán for Brighton. They're leading 1-0 against Nottingham Forest. It is still 11 against 11 in terms of those on the pitch, as Veltman pushes it out to the right-hand side for Adingra. Closing him down was Toffolo. Last touch came off the Ivorian. It's going to be a Forest throw.
Yeah, frustrating for Brighton. It's just that little bit of quality, a little bit of care with the pass. You know, a few little, whether it's tiredness just starting to creep in a little bit with one or two of the players, a couple of mistakes being made.
Van Hecker on the edge of his penalty area, back to Verbruggen. Forest going from left to right towards all those supporters who would have had a pretty clear view of that challenge from Jakob Modder as well, I'm sure. And if they didn't see it, I have no doubt they'd have got it up on their phones by now. We'll be watching it. Here's Gibbs White trying to curl it across the edge of the box. He's got it to Woods. Woods hit it, and Verbruggen has saved it. He's pushed it away, the goalkeeper. It's an excellent stop. It's a Forest corner. Woods unlucky, but that's a top stop from Verbruggen.
Oh, it's fabulous. I'm trying to think who played the ball. Is it Gibbs White? Yeah, it's a wonderful diagonal pass in behind the last defender, and it's a tight angle, but Woods has got the ball on target. It's a half volley. He sort of always tries controlling it back across goal with his side foot, and it's on target, and it's a wonderful save from Verbruggen.
He's been in great form under Nuno. Chris Wood, he scored 6 goals in his 8 appearances under his new Portuguese manager, and he was so close to another one there. But still, Brighton's 1-goal lead is intact, but it looks a nervy 1-0 lead at the moment. Gibbs White's corner, but Verbruggen came out, jumped up towards the ball. It's not been cleared by Brighton. Murillo's turned and shot, and he's scuffed his effort into the side netting. It's a goal kick, and he's apologising to those in the middle, because there are Forest players who are up there who were expecting that ball to be sent back in by their centre-back.
Yeah, I think he got just maybe a little bit excited trying to sort of finish that attempt himself, and it was Gross that didn't cover himself in glory trying to clear the ball away. He's almost sliced the ball, and then obviously Forrest took that shot just going out of the field of play, and his teammates Danilo is certainly having a little bit of a word with him, say that ball's got to come back into the 6-yard box, try and pick someone out there.
So a couple of Nottingham Forest changes here. These are really attacking changes from Nuno. He's taken off his 2 central midfielders, Nicholas Dominguez and his captain Ryan Yates, and he's brought on Callum Hudson-Odoi and Taiwo Awoniyi. So that's a double change from Forest, and Nuno is now sensing that he's got to commit bodies forward here to try and get something.
Yeah, well, we've got to that stage, haven't we? We're sort of like within the last 18 minutes or so, plus any added time. They find themselves a goal down still. They haven't managed so far to find that breakthrough. So again, just trying to play that little bit of tactics and just changing it from the touchline and going with a little bit more of an attacking mindset and players on the pitch now.
They've got lots of attacking players on the pitch now, and that might in many ways favour Brighton in the sense that the gaps might open up a little bit more, because I would say, Franny, and I don't know if you disagree with me, that the last 15 minutes Forest have been the better team.
They've done well. They've been very good second half. You know, as I said, there's a few times where just that little delivery or a ball into the box or getting bodies into the box could have been a little bit better, but their performance-wise has been great compared to the first half.
Well, Bamadeli's own goal in the first half, giving Brighton the lead. That's the only goal of the afternoon so far. It's still West Ham 1, Burnley 2, with that goal back from Lucas Paquetá right at the start of the second half for the Hammers. And less than 15 minutes until Liverpool and Manchester City get underway. Live on 5 Live as the ball goes back to Verbruggen with his white gloves on and his black goalkeeper kit. And he plays it short into the feet of Pascal Gross. So in terms of attacking players on the pitch now for Forest, you've got Hudson-Odoi, Alanga, Awani, Gibbs-White and Chris Wood. They're all on there now for Nuno's team.
Exactly, yeah, that's right, Chris. And, you know, top scorers for Forest. Wood, Awani, Alanga, Gibbs-White. It's all Forest top scorers now on the field of play. So it's got to be the time that they need to deliver with a goal. Or is it going to be one of the other players that can just pop up with a crucial goal in this game?
A couple of Brighton changes coming. There's instructions being given to Julio Enciso and to Igor, who are ready to go below us. One of Roberto De Zerbi's backroom staff has got the iPad out, giving some instructions over as to what is required from those two as they're about to come on. The Brazilian and the Paraguayan, with Brighton in possession on the halfway line with Welbeck, who hasn't really seen a great deal of the ball since he came on, Danny Welbeck, but that is indicative of Forest getting a firmer grip of this game as Wood wins the free kick. He's pulled over 10 yards inside Brighton's half.
Getting a little bit of a feel that it is shifting a little bit against Brighton, isn't it? As you say, Forest doing so well. They need to be scoring clearly to get back into this game, but they're just almost like building up momentum, you feel, a little bit. And I think that's why De Zerbi is making, again, another change just to try and help his team out a little bit.
Well, off goes Jakob Modder, and there might be some from a Forest persuasion who say he should have been walking 10 minutes ago, but he's walking off here as a Brighton substitute rather than a Brighton dismissal. He's coming off, and so is Pervis Estupiñán, and on comes Igor, the defender, and the attacking creative talents that is 20-year-old Julio Enciso, who came back from that knee injury a few weeks ago that had ruled him out since August. One of so many that's been on that long Brighton injury list this season, Enciso, and the home supporters really excited to see him playing regularly again. So that Forest free kick from almost at the halfway line drops towards Awani, who took it down on his chest but was barged out of it by Igor, who sends it upfield towards the halfway line and out of play for a Forest throw, which Nico Williams is going to take. 15 minutes to go for Annie Benali. Brighton 1, Forest 0. Fabulously poised.
Yeah, it certainly is, isn't it? You know, sort of Brighton almost like you feel are quite content to a degree to try and see this one out and hold out and maybe just counter-attack the way that Forest have stepped up the possession and dominance in this second half. And at what point do Forest really have a little go to not go all out, but still sort of stay in the game without leaving any gaps or leave any chances at the opposite end to go a further goal behind? So it's a fine balance between staying in the game and really going all out to get an equaliser.
They're the ones in possession at the moment, Nottingham Forest, with their centre half Murillo, who only made his senior debut in football 11 months ago, which is extraordinary really when you're watching him. The £13.7 million signing from Corinthians in his home country. Sangare, poor pass from him. It was a sloppy touch. Brighton have got the ball back off him. Welbeck gives it to Lamptey, 5 yards inside Forest half. Here is Gross, who is instructing some movement down that left hand side with his fingers as Lamptey sends it on for Enciso, the substitute, back in field for Gross. Roberto De Zerbi is patrolling the edge of his technical area at the moment, trying to get his side just to be a bit more patient and considered about their play as Van Hecker moves forward with it from that centre half position, lofted out towards Lamptey, tried to turn away from Alanga, last touch came off Lamptey. Forest throw.
I don't know if it's me, but there seems to be a few decisions today that, you know, when you get that gut reaction, you think which way the ball should be given. It's gone completely the opposite on a number of occasions. So, you know, I'm a little bit baffled at one or two of them, but it's getting into a good contest now at this stage of the game.
Gibbs-White, can he bend it out? Oh, he has. Brilliant pass from Gibbs-White out to that left-hand side for Hudson-Odoi. Forest have got 3 players in the middle. Hudson-Odoi is tripped. Where did he get tripped? Right on the edge of the box. That is so close to a penalty. The challenge was by Veltman, and it is a Forest free kick on the left-hand side of Brighton's penalty area, but right on the edge of the box.
Yeah, and it's a yellow card for Veltman. Again, no hesitation from the referee to blow his whistle and award the free kick, but it's good play from Hudson-Odoi, driving at his fullback. It puts people on the back foot, and Veltman then just checked his momentum, tried having a little dip to win the ball. Hudson-Odoi shifts the pass, and it is literally just outside the box.
So Nottingham Forest with this free kick then. It is a fair way over to the left-hand side. Nuno has turned away from the action for now. He's popped his hands in his pockets, the Nottingham Forest manager, as he comes towards the touchline. He knows that they have to start capitalising on this momentum that Forest have built up throughout this second half, really. But Bruggen is over at his near post on the right-hand side, giving instructions to his Brighton wall at the moment. It's only Gibbs White over this Forest free kick. We've got just over 11 minutes to go. Brighton 1, Nottingham Forest 0 here on 5 Live Sports Extra on an afternoon where Forest began it 3 points above the relegation zone. Gibbs White, here's the referee's whistle, stands poised, waits, deciding what to do with it. You imagine he's going to go for goal. He has gone for goal and he's hit it right at Verbruggen, who takes it at chest height, and with Forest players around him, he hangs on to it as well.
Oh, it's frustrating, I think, for Forest. I think he's tried sort of like whipping it in at the near post, but it's gone straight to Van Bruggen, sorry. And it's one of those that he was almost like, you see so many players in that position try to shoot for the far inside of the post, because then if there's not a touch, it can often bounce or just go straight into the far net, because the goalkeepers have got to stay rooted because players are running across them. If it's a defender, it might take a touch in, or one of your strikers might get on the end of it. So I think it maybe just a little bit misjudged there from Gibbs White on that delivery. But again, another change now for Brighton, just trying to break that momentum that Forest are building.
And the experience of Adam Lallana being utilised here by Roberto De Zerbi as well to try and make sure that his team get over the line in the final 10 minutes. Adingra's coming off, Lallana's coming on, who I'm sure immediately after this game, having been a Premier League winner with Liverpool, will have his eyes firmly focused on what is happening at Anfield between Liverpool and Manchester City this afternoon, live on 5 Live. We've got 6:06 tonight from 6 o'clock. And then from Tuesday, Arsenal against Porto in the Champions League, and we continue our Champions League live commentary with Atletico against Inter Milan as well on the Wednesday evening. And of course, all around that, we will keep you up to date with everything that's happening in those midweek fixtures in the EFL as well. All those leagues getting really exciting. Championship, League One, League Two. There are some titanic tussles happening at the top of all of those tables.
Well, we're getting to the real business end and the exciting end of the season now, aren't we, Chris? And we were thinking a little bit earlier, weren't we? Like, is there a possibility, and has it ever happened before, that the 3 promoted sides go down and the 3 relegated sides from the Premier League actually go up? I don't think it's happened before.
Do you know, I don't know, but that is a really interesting talking point, because of course it could very conceivably happen, couldn't it, this season?
Well, I hope so, because Southampton are in that mix. So
I was waiting for the bias element of that to come out. Sangare lifted it forward down the right hand side, too much for Nico Williams. Goal kick. Franny Benali, former Southampton defender of many years in the Premier League, is with us here on 5 Live Sports Extra, with Brighton 1-0 up against Nottingham Forest, and that one goal still the one that Forest will be so disappointed about conceding because of the manner of it, the own goal from Omar Bamadeli in the first half.
I think that's the thing, isn't it, quite often when it's a goal that you could have easily have avoided or could have done better with. It's so frustrating if it does end up costing you, but their reaction to it has been good since the goal and also here in the second half.
But they're having to do some defending. Here come Brighton from right to left with Lamptey, who's come on as a substitute in this second half. Tariq Lamptey cutting inside Williams, sending it across the 6-yard box, touched behind by Toffolo and behind for a Brighton corner.
Yeah, it's very good play from Lamptey. He's skillful, he's quick, he gets past Nico Williams, and then it was a wonderful little touch to steer the ball behind and away from danger from Toffolo, but he's conceded a corner, but nothing else he could really do in that position. Tracked his runner well, just dealt with the danger.
Does have 3 Premier League assists this season. Tariq Lamptey has had a decent run in the team of late, having largely spent the first portion of the season either injured or not used by Roberto De Zerbi. 7 minutes to go at the Amex under these grey skies. Brighton 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Brighton corner is going to come from that right hand side, from the boot of Pascal Gross towards Lewis Dunk. He didn't get his head on it. I think that's come off a Forest player, hasn't it? No, goal kick's been given. I have to say Michael Salisbury's got a far better view of that than me, so I presume that's the right decision.
Well, there's been a few that we've almost questioned here today, Chris, but again, I think clearly the way that the second half has gone, Brighton and their team are appealing for those kind of decisions, and Forest have really got to step things up now in the remaining 7 minutes of normal time.
The former Chelsea man, Hudson-Odoi, towards Sangare on the halfway line. Toffolo goes back into his own half to give it to Murillo. This is on Mbamadeli, and back with Murillo again, who just has a little look to see what's around him. Short it goes for Toffolo on the left, up down that left-hand side for Awoniyi, who holds up Van Hecke, who was hassling and harrying behind him. Now Sangare has got the short sleeve shirt and the glove combo today on Mbamadeli for Forest. Now Gibbs-White, who's come short to retrieve it. Kouyate's just walked out to the touchline, so he's about to come on. Sheikh Kouyaté, the 34-year-old Senegalese for Nottingham Forest, as Alanga struggles to control a difficult ball on the edge of Brighton's penalty area. Igor is there to try and clean up. He's managed to get it infield for Gross, who was under pressure from Gibbs-White, who almost pinched it off him, and now Lamptey runs away from Omobamidele on the halfway line. Omobamidele's got back with him just to stifle the momentum of Lamptey's run, but he's been picked up instead by Lallana towards Welbeck. Welbeck lost his balance, and the boot was in there from Nico Williams. And now Forest try and get away down that right-hand side with Alanga, who's quick, but Igor's strong. And that was the difference in the end. Igor might not have had the legs to go with him, but he had the muscle.
For a split second you thought Alanga was going to get away from Igor, didn't you? But he just kicked down, dropped it a gear, but I think more than anything just used his strength, stuck his arm out across Alanga and managed to shield the ball in his possession. Good defending.
He's a big boy, isn't he, Igor? Look at those broad shoulders, massive thighs that are striding out here. He's got a bit of strapping as well on his right leg today as well, as the ball goes back to Lewis Dunk, the Brighton defender. Now Van Hecke, Gross has it. So often the architect for Brighton, Pascal Gross, on that big day for him today. 250 Brighton appearances. Chipped out to the left-hand side for Lamptey. Kouyate's still not on yet for Nottingham Forest. He's been stood on the touchline for a couple of minutes now, and we are into the last 5 of this game. Forest are still chasing it. Brighton 1, Forest 0, Franny Benali.
Yeah, Brighton doing what they should be doing a lot earlier in this game, just keeping the ball. No real desire or urgency to get forward, but just taking the sting out of the play for Forest. The longer they keep the ball, the better chance they'll have of seeing this game out.
Well worked by Brighton down the left-hand side. Belieber, a step over. Oh, he's fouled Nico Williams. He ended up on his backside, Nico Williams. That's exactly what you want as an attacking player, to fool your defender like that. I can't imagine that's ever happened to you. Well,
if you don't want to be the defender that falls on your backside like that when an attacker does a little trick or makes a little run at you, but he's back on his feet. Only his pride was hurt, I think.
I mentioned earlier that Wales were winning in the rugby. They're not anymore. They're trailing at home to France in the Six Nations. Wales 17, France 20. It's live right now on the BBC, both on BBC One and on the radio via the BBC Sport website at the moment, and then following the conclusion of this game we'll pick it up here on 5 Live Sports Extra for what is left of that game in Cardiff. Liverpool against Manchester City has just got going in the Premier League over on 5 Live. You can join John Murray right now if you want to hear that. Pascal Gross here for Brighton. Now Belieber, as we are in the closing stages. Enciso from distance, about a yard over the top of the bar. Nearly another corker from the boot of the Paraguayan.
And I'm just watching him, his reaction to how close that was. It was brilliant. It was almost like a goal celebration in itself. He had no doubt about what he wanted to do. The second he picked the ball up, just got it out of his feet, and it's a wonderful strike. And for a split second you think it's going to fly into the top corner, but it just went over the bar.
Last Premier League goal that Julio Enciso scored was last season against Manchester City, and it was one of the final 3 nominees for the Puskás Goal of the Year award. It was an absolute peach, and that would not have been too far short of the same quality, because he hit that brilliantly. That Forest change has happened, by the way. Kouyate's come on for Gibbs-White, which is an interesting change from Nuno, who is out of his technical area at the moment, trying to get his team up the pitch for this Forest free kick. Gibbs-White's worked so hard today, but without his rewards. And Forest, with the ball being placed down by Nico Williams, with this set piece, Franny, 10 yards inside Brighton's half.
Yeah, it's quite a high line that Brighton are holding, actually. They're giving quite a bit of space between that and their goalkeeper, Verbruggen. The ball comes in from Williams.
And it is very long towards that far post. Kouyaté won the initial header, but it dropped down nicely for Veltman to clear it away, and he has put it out of play for a Forest throw on the halfway line on the opposite side to us, the far left. Forest going from left to right, 1-0 down against Brighton, and we're in the last 2 minutes now plus stoppage time here at the Amex Stadium, with the lights, the big lights that go across the arch of this stadium, piercing down onto the green surface here as Elanga picks the ball up for Forest on the right hand side. Had a massive chance, Elanga, last week against Liverpool, 1-on-1, which he spurned at 0-0, and obviously that story did not end the way that Forest wanted it to. And as it stands, as things are right now, they're going to stay 17th, Nottingham Forest, and they are going to remain 3 points above the Premier League relegation zone. And Luton, the team directly below them, do have that game in hand as well, as a forward pass is pinched back by Brighton in midfield. Lallana has it now, he's going backwards at the moment, he's giving it to Van Hecker, and Van Hecker centred across to Dunk. To the left hand side for Lamptey into the shins of Nico Williams. It's a Brighton throw, 60 seconds to go, Brighton 1, Forest 0.
I'm just taking a little look at sort of the form of Forest. They've only won one Premier League game in 2024, Chris. That was the 2-0 win against West Ham. They've got to sort of stop conceding goals, especially like the one today, and start putting some points on the board. You touched on the games that they've got to come and play. They've got to play 7 of their remaining 10 games, who are in the bottom half of the table at the moment. So those are going to be crucial matches.
That, you sense, is where it is going to lie for Forest in terms of their future in the Premier League. Obviously they are awaiting the outcome of a financial fair play hearing with possible points deductions, but we'll learn more of that in the next few weeks, and one would imagine there'll be appeal to whatever that potential points deduction might be anyway. It's a Forest free kick here, 15 yards inside Brighton's half. We are in the final 30 seconds as the cross is deep towards the far post, headed back across goal, and it's landed on the roof of the net. I thought Verbruggen was struggling for a moment there because he was backpedaling with real concern from that header from Kouyaté, which has floated up and landed on the top of Verbruggen's net.
Verbruggen's in no rush whatsoever to take this goal kick. He's getting that high line, but it's a decent ball in. The header that you just felt might have just crept under the crossbar, but it was a little bit too much on it from Kouyaté. Or did it come off him? Might have come shoulder even. But anyway, it's gone over the bar. You might have heard there from the stadium announcement, there's 6 minutes added time.
6 minutes and a whisker between them. And Andrew Omobamidele own goal, the difference between Brighton and Nottingham Forest. But Forest, who have had this second half where they have offered more, but the moments where they've got in front of goal, be it the save from Verbruggen from Chris Wood, the chance for Origi that went over the top of the crossbar, and of course we got the talking point over the Jakob Modder challenge as well, which resulted in a yellow card, but some perhaps feel that it could have been red. There was a VAR check, but no more action was taken. They're all the things that Forest fans will be talking about. 6:06 tonight if you want to give Chris and Robbie a call. Here's Pascal Gross for Lallana, left hand side, deep inside Forest defensive third, as Lamptey takes his time, picks his pass, gives it to Lallana, who's now in the box. He's giving it to Welbeck. The flag's up against Lallana. Offside. Free kick Nottingham Forest as West Ham level things up against Burnley from 2-0 down. It's now 2-2 at London Stadium.
I think it was Danny Ings, I think, that got the goal. Chris, yeah.
Well, that's a long time coming for Danny Ings.
Yeah.
There haven't been too many Premier League goals for West Ham lately.
It's good timing for him and his team.
Remarkably similar, really, to what happened yesterday for Sheffield United. A team at the bottom, 2-0 up at Bournemouth. Bournemouth came back and drew 2-2, and the same things happened for a beleaguered-looking Burnley team today, it would seem. Handball given against Kouyaté. Free kick Brighton, halfway inside their own half, and already the 2 of the 6 additional minutes have been swallowed up here by the Seagulls.
I don't know what... He can't do anything. I was going to say I don't know what Kouyaté could do there. The ball was kicked at his arm, literally a yard away from him. There's nothing he could have done about it, and yet he's been penalised with a free kick.
Lamptey, great touch as he brought the ball out of the sky on the edge of Forest penalty area, and he's kept the ball as well for Brighton. He's given it to Gross, Lallana, Gross is fouled. That's a silly one from Kouyaté, got too tight to Pascal Gross, who has gone down, and I have no doubt will stay down for a little while to eat up a few more seconds for Roberto De Zerbi's team.
He will, yeah. That's what players do now, teams do. They maximise that opportunity of restarting the game. And again, Brighton, they're good at this. They've got the players with the ability and the talent to just pop passes around in little triangles, little one-touch, two-touch. It's hard to get near, and then you end up getting a player rush into a challenge, bit of frustration, concede the free kick, but it runs the clock down that little bit more for the home side.
And after the 3-0 defeat to Fulham last week and the 4-0 loss to Roma on Thursday night, this is the way that Roberto De Zerbi would have wanted his team to respond, as He moves up towards the 18-month mark since he replaced Graham Potter as manager of this football club. Gross scrapping in the corner, winning the corner for Brighton, met by a big cheer from the Amex Stadium. Roberto De Zerbi, edge of his technical area, hands in pocket, unmoved.
Yeah, very sensible play from him. You know, he had a couple of Forest defenders around him. Pascal Gross, but I think he ended up on the floor almost, sat on his bottom, but he managed to flick the ball out, win his side of corner, and again they're in no rush at all to take it.
Right in front of one Brighton fan, a solo fan waving a big blue and white Brighton flag as Brighton take the corner, and they've gone short, and Gross has won another one. And at the moment they're just working their way through the seconds here, Brighton.
Yeah, exactly, Chris, and it's the end of the pitch where they want to be, isn't it? You know, they certainly don't want to be sort of defending under pressure at this stage of the game.
And now we're getting a shot of Nuno on our screen, who is frantically chewing his gum with his arms crossed, watching on, knowing that his team is slipping to yet another defeat here, Nottingham Forest, and there's been a few too many lately. And Pascal Gross from the corner is fouled. That is a bit silly, really, from Sangare, and there's one or two others now who are getting involved in a bit of pushing and shoving. There's a Forest sub down there as well, who is having one or two words with some of Brighton's players. There's a yellow card for Sangare for the challenge on Gross, and a bit of ill discipline, and suddenly Forest, who had some momentum, are just going to see this 6 minutes of stoppage time completely evaporate.
Yeah, I get the frustration, but it's a silly one. It's one of those ones that we've seen before. There's no chance of winning the ball. He's just kicked Pascal Gross on the back of the calf. It runs the time down. I didn't see the yellow card, but I assume he got booked for it as well.
He did.
And again, you're talking about seeing Nuno Espirito Santo's expression, just seeing a glimpse of him on the touchline, expressionless, but you can see he's not happy at all. And coming back to that challenge earlier in the match in the second half that you think could easily have been a red card, and I think it's Willy Bolly that's been the Forest substitute, is being ordered away by the referee from the area of the free kick. He's maybe saying something.
Yeah, I think he was the one that got involved with some of Brighton's players down there, Willy Bolly, a moment ago. As Pascal Gross tries to win the corner, he's not been able to do it. Eventually Forest have got it away, but we've now played 5.5 of those 6 minimum additional minutes that have been added on. As Dunk goes back to Verbruggen, Forest have to get the ball back here. Time is very quickly getting away from them as Lallana backs into Nico Williams. He's fouled him as well. It's going to be a free kick to Forest, and those 6 minutes are almost up, and Lallana now involved in an incident off the ball. Now I've turned my face away there because I didn't quite see what happened, but Lallana and Sangare have just had it coming together. Sangare's ended up on the ground holding his face. There's other Forest and Brighton players that are now pushing and shoving, and Michael Salisbury has a situation.
I think Adam Lallana, there might have been some contact, but Sangare's gone to ground holding his face. Lallana's getting a yellow card from the referee. I don't think there's anything in it whatsoever. It just shows how quickly these kind of, at this stage of a game, how the tempers can flare. He just barges into him a little bit, Lallana. Nothing more than just sort of stepping into him a little bit. And Sangare goes to the ground, but he's back on his feet.
So Forest free kick then, 10 yards inside their own half. We are into the 7th minute of stoppage time at the Amex Stadium. Brighton leading Nottingham Forest by a goal to nil. Time is almost up. Long kick forward from Seltzer Forest. Drops down, almost dropped towards Awoniyi. It didn't quite sit for him. Williams chipping it back up to the far post. Wood was in there. Dunk won the header. Now with Murillo on the left side of the box. Forest looking for a late goal. Forest have not got the late goal. Brighton have won it. There's the full-time whistle, and a big hug exchange between Roberto De Zerbi and all of his backroom staff after a difficult week. They are celebrating this. They are celebrating it wildly because Brighton back on track. They have seen off Nottingham Forest through that own goal from Andrew Omobamidele in the first half, and though Forest offered more in the second period, it is their 12th Premier League defeat in their last 17 games, and they remain hanging above that Premier League bottom 3. There's only 3 points between them and Luton, and for Forest this season is becoming more and more nervy. Franny Benali.
Yeah, and we touched on the games that they've got coming up. You know, they'll be bitterly disappointed that they haven't taken something from the game today. Brighton started much better in the first half, took that goal through you've got to say, a Forest error. disappointing goal to give away from their perspective, but since the goal and in this second half they were much better, and probably on reflection of the game maybe deserved a point from this. But Brighton did what they had to do, took the goal, saw the game out, and Forest have got a nervous run in now.
And just a quick word, Franny, on the contentious moment in the second half, that challenge from Jakob Modder. He got a yellow card, the Brighton midfielder, but there are plenty in the red of Nottingham Forest that feel the colour of the card should have been red.
Most definitely. I think it's going to be one of those talking points, as you touched on, Chris. Looking at the couple of the replays, it didn't look good at all. And I find it amazing that between the on-field officials and VAR, they haven't deemed it worthy of a red card. It was a bad one for me in today's football.
Franny, really enjoyed your company today. Thank you very much. The former Southampton defender Franny Benali with us here at the Amex Stadium. It's Brighton who are celebrating. They could go up to 7th with a win today. They knew that, and that victory is huge for Roberto De Zerbi's team as they get their European ambitions back on track. And for Forest, the concerns still linger. Another defeat for Nuno's team. On 5 Live right now, Liverpool against Manchester City underway in the Premier League, and that big tussle at the top of the table. But we're taking you to Cardiff here on 5 Live Sports Extra for the conclusion of Wales against France in the Six Nations.